Chapter 146. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. The mother and daughter looked strangely at the bag of medicine on the table. For a while, they did not know what the matriarch had given them. "What is this?" Yaosher asked. The matriarch stretched and lazily sat down in a chair. "Arsenic." Yaosher choked. Gu Jiao also nearly choked. If she did not remember incorrectly, the matriarch had casually taken it out of her pocket, right? Were all the matriarchs these days so hardcore? She even carried arsenic with her? Where did you get the arsenic? Gu Jiao looked at the matriarch and asked. The matriarch felt a little guilty from being stared at. She gently coughed and said, It's that rat medicine." She vaguely said the word but Gu Jiao still understood. She said it was for sale. A few days ago, Gu Jiao found that there were rats in the house, so she used the arsenic to make some rat medicine. The rat medicine was gone, and the rats did not appear again. She thought that the rat medicine had all been eaten by the rats. It turned out that the matriarch had taken it and sold it. Selling the wound medicine could no longer satisfy your needs, right? You're even selling rat medicine now? The matriarch cleared her throat. The medicine is quite effective. Everyone in the neighborhood has a bag. Gu Jiao. You've already made it so that everyone in the alley has a bag. The corners of Gu Jiao's mouth twitched. Aya. It smells so good. Is it time to cook? I'm going to the kitchen to take a look. The matriarch slipped away. Yaosher stood up. That's right, it smells so good. I'm also going to take a look. Gu Jiao's gaze fell on the bag of medicine in her hand. Bringing arsenic into the kitchen was very scary, all right? Yaosher awkwardly smiled. Holding the bag of medicine in her hand, she said, I threw it away. Oh. Gu Jiao pretended to believe her. Yaosher chased after the matriarch, and the two went to a secluded corner. Yaosher raised the bag of medicine and humbly asked for advice. My child's grandaunt, how exactly do you use this? The matriarch first gestured to give the medicine, then gestured to raise her head to drink. She winked at Yaosher. Go through the motions, do you understand? With only the two of you, she won't be able to explain herself. Yaosher seemed to understand. But how do we get rid of those maidservants? Concubine Ling always had her trusted maid by her side. Of course, you can't get rid of her maidservant. Get rid of her yourself. As the matriarch spoke, she leaned close to Yaosher and whispered into her ear. Do you understand? Yaosher suddenly realized. Brilliant, truly brilliant. After Yaosher came up with a plan, she impatiently left. Watching Yaosher excitedly leave, the matriarch sank into deep confusion. What exactly did I do in the past? Why are you so full of evil tricks? Yaosher took the arsenic and returned to the manor. It was her first time doing something like this, so she was quite nervous. However, when she thought of the grievances and scapegoats she had suffered all these years, she felt that it was nothing more than this. She first carried out the first step of her plan. Lure the snake out of its hole. Concubine Ling was a very cautious person. It was not likely that she would come out alone unless Concubine Ling was doing something shameful. For example, seducing Marquis Gu. Yaosher first released the news that Marquis Gu was in the back mountains. In order to make the news reliable, Yaosher tricked Marquis Gu into going to the back mountains. When Concubine Ling heard that Marquis Gu was in the back mountains, she immediately dressed up and went alone to create a romantic chance encounter with Marquis Gu. However, the person she met was not Marquis Gu. Instead, it was Yaosher, who had been waiting in the back mountains. Ma, madam? Concubine Ling was startled, and quickly pulled up her slightly slippery clothes. Yaosher looked at her figure that was about to be revealed and faintly smiled. Concubine mother dressed like this. Who did you come to the back mountains to meet in secret? Concubine Ling quickly wrapped her cloak tightly around herself. Suppressing her guilty conscience, she said, I just came for a walk. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Yaosher smiled and said, Since you're already here, why don't you go in and sit for a while? After the Marquis finishes picking fruit, he will come find me. With Yao Shi present, concubine Ling could not use any of her skills, but she did not want to leave like this. After all, she had dressed up very beautifully. If the Marquis did not see her, she would not be satisfied. Concubine Ling and Yao Shi went to a small wooden hut nearby. Marquis Gu would occasionally come to the back mountains to practice his swordsmanship. Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin would also occasionally come to the back mountains to pick fruit. This small wooden hut was prepared for them to rest in. It did not look big, but it had everything that should be there. The two sat down across from each other. Yao Shi poured a cup of tea for concubine Ling. While concubine Ling was not paying attention, she grabbed the bag of medicine. The matriarch's plan was to have Yao Shi use the trick of injuring herself to gain sympathy. She would put poison in her own cup and pretend to take a sip to pretend that she had been poisoned. In reality, all she needed to do was sprinkle it on her body. Then, she would accuse concubine Ling of poisoning her. Either way, there was no third person, so concubine Ling would not be able to explain herself. But it was clear that Yao Shi had misunderstood the matriarch's intentions. She took advantage of her unpreparedness and put the rat poison in concubine Ling's cup. How could concubine Ling have expected that Yao Shi would so brazenly poison her? She picked up the teacup and drank it without any hesitation. Then she met with tragedy. The matriarch was selling rat poison. That could not be the original dosage. It was mixed with flour. It was a fake rat poison. It would not kill, but it was enough for concubine Ling to drink. Concubine Ling fell to the ground and could not get up. Her nose was crooked and her mouth was slanted. Her entire body was twitching, and she was foaming at the mouth. Those who knew would say that she had been poisoned. Those who did not know would think that she had suffered a stroke at such a young age. What was even worse was that her sorry state was seen by Marquis Gu, who had come to find Yao Shi. Concubine Ling wanted to pretend that she had died. What happened? What happened to her? Marquis Gu asked with a face full of shock. I don't know. Yao Shi played dumb. Marquis Gu immediately called for servants to send concubine Ling back to her courtyard. He also called for the manor's doctor to treat concubine Ling. The doctor diagnosed that concubine Ling had been poisoned and quickly urged concubine Ling to vomit. This was what Yao Shi had suffered in the past. However, the doctor's medical skills were not as good as Gu Jiao's. The medicine was also not as advanced as Gu Jiao's. Concubine Ling suffered more than Yao Shi. After a total of 4 hours, concubine Ling was finally able to speak. She was almost half dead. The first thing she said was to accuse Yao Shi. She poisoned me. Marquis Gu frowned. Don't talk nonsense. How could Madame poison you? Not only did Marquis Gu not believe it, even old Madame Gu and Gu Qingfeng did not believe it. The three of them did not like Yao Shi. However, disliking her was one thing. Whether or not they believed that Yao Shi had the guts was another thing. If Yao Shi really had such means, why would she be forced out of the manor by them? Gu Qinglin came to see her in a wheelchair. He dismissed the servants and asked in a low voice, Concubine Nyang, are you trying to trick me? Concubine Ling felt wronged. I am not. Old Madame Gu also came to question her. What were you thinking? How could you do such a stupid thing? Didn't she just stay in the manor for a few more days? Even if you want to force her out, you should think of a better way. Aunt. Concubine Ling was so wrong that she even called her mother's name. She admitted that she had harmed Yao Shi before, but this time it was not her. It was really her who harmed me, Aunt. Old Madame Gu glared at her. She harmed you by using arsenic mixed with flour? The doctor had already said that as long as the treatment was timely, that level of arsenic would not kill anyone. I know what you are thinking. There is no need to lie in front of me. Do you take me for a fool? Do you think I can't see through it? Old Madame Gu was very angry. She was not angry at concubine Ling for doing such a stupid thing. She was angry that concubine Ling did such a stupid thing and did not admit it. Old Madame Gu originally wanted to make a decision for concubine Ling, but now she changed her mind. You should reflect on yourself, Old Madame Gu said and left with a flick of her sleeves. Concubine Ling, even I can see the flaw in this method. If you want to deal with that woman in the future, don't use such a small trick. Gu Qinglin said awkwardly and went back to his courtyard. Concubine Ling was about to break down. She had been dealing with that woman for more than 10 years, but this time she did not. No one doubted her when she harmed others, but when she did nothing, no one in the manor believed her. Concubine Ling was so angry that her head hurt. Gu Chongqing stayed in the military camp for a few days. At night, he finally dragged his tired face back to the manor. As soon as he entered the manor, his personal servant reported the matter of Concubine Ling being poisoned to Gu Chongqing. I really didn't expect Concubine Ling to be so cruel to herself. In order to frame Madame, she did not hesitate to poison herself. Isn't she afraid of poisoning herself to death? Gu Chongqing was deep in thought and did not speak. The servant chattered on a lot. He probably did not expect Concubine Ling to be so vicious to harm Madame. To be honest, Concubine Ling was a good person in the manor. She had been in charge of the manor for many years, and rarely argued with the servants. However, in the eyes of the servants, Madame Yao was more harmless than Concubine Ling. How is Concubine Ling? Gu Chongqing asked. The servant noticed that the heir called her Concubine Ling this time, not Concubine Ling. The difference of one word made people feel that his feelings towards Concubine Ling had changed. The servant didn't dare to question his master's thoughts and only answered him truthfully. The doctor said that the poison was mixed with flour, so it won't kill anyone. Concubine Yang is fine. She just needs to recuperate for a period of time. Gu Chongqing said expressionlessly. If that is the case, then recuperate well. Don't let Concubine Ling worry about the manor anymore. The servant was confused. What did he mean by that? Gu Chongqing went to the Pine Crane courtyard and temporarily took back Concubine Ling's manor on the grounds of recuperation and punishment. In fact, it was unreasonable to let a concubine be in charge of the manor. It was only because Concubine Ling had a strong backer, and Madame Yao was not in the manor that she had been in charge of the manor for 10 years. Old Madame Gu was still brooding over Concubine Ling's lies. She wanted to punish Concubine Ling, so she nodded and agreed. Therefore, after being poisoned and wronged by the whole manor, Concubine Ling lost her right to the manor's manor. After the opening of the medical center, it snowed for 3 days. Many streets in the capital were frozen. It was difficult for carriages to drive and pedestrians to walk. Little Jing Kong fell down as soon as he came out of the house. Oh, it was not his fault. The ground was too slippery. He tried to get up but could not, so he gave up. He just lay on the ground and stuck out his little tongue. Something was wrong with the spitting. His tongue was stuck. When Gu Jiao came out of the kitchen, she saw a cute little figure lying on the ground in the front yard through the hall. Gu Jiao walked over strangely. It's cold on the ground. Get up. Little Jing Kong. Oh, I can't get up. Gu Jiao squatted down and found that the little guy's tongue was stuck on the ice on the ground. Gu Jiao, how did you make yourself like this? Little Jing Kong felt that he was going to die from embarrassment. Jiao Jiao had actually seen his embarrassing appearance, which seriously affected his heroic and handsome image. He tried to pull his tongue out. Gu Jiao said, "Don't move." Pulling it out by force would hurt his tongue, so Gu Jiao went to the kitchen to get warm water. Before she finished, Xiao Luleng came out of the study. He saw the little guy on the ground and squatted down to look at the little guy's embarrassment. Little Jing Kong went crazy. "Ah, bad brother-in-law, you're not allowed to look." Soon Gu Yan and Gu Shaoshan came out too. The two of them also came over to look. Gu Yan was laughing so hard. Gu Shaoshan usually didn't laugh unless she couldn't hold it in. Like now. Little Jing Kong was so angry. Bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, all adults are bad guys. After what seemed like a century, little Jing Kong finally got warm water from Gu Jiao to save his tongue. His tongue was numb and he couldn't feel it. Gu Jiao picked him up. He was ashamed and indignant. He felt that he had no face left. He covered his face with his small hand and plunged into Gu Jiao's arms, turning the back of his head to the others. Little Jing Kong always ate alone in the house. He didn't eat with these bad adults who laughed at him. This was the first time the little guy threw a tantrum. Although it was a little heartless to say this, the little guy looked so cute when he was upset. It's time to go to school. Xiao Luleng held back his laughter and came over to call him. Little Jing Kong pulled the quilt and buried his little head in it. "I'm not going to school with you. I want to go to school with Jiao Jiao." Digression. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that Jiao Jiao was no longer on the new book list. It turned out that it had been on the shelves for 30 days. Time really flew by. Do you still have the monthly votes? If you do, please support Jiao Jiao. I hope that more readers can see Jiao Jiao. Thank you everyone. Bow. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1146282990. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 147. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Little Jing Kong was very determined. Xiao Lulang had no choice but to go to the Imperial College by himself. Little Jing Kong closed the door tightly. Gu Jiao knocked on the door. Can you go to school now? Little Jing Kong asked from behind the door. Have they all left? Gu Jiao said softly, yes. Little Jing Kong snorted. Bad brother-in-law has left. Brother Yin and Brother Xiaoshan have also left? Gu Jiao nodded. Yes, they have all left. Little Jing Kong opened the door slightly, but he didn't come out immediately. Instead, he stuck his head out of the door and looked around. After making sure that no one was around, he walked out with his school bag. Probably because she was still shy, her little face was flushed red. In order to cover up his embarrassment, he tried his best to look serious and mature. He walked in front with a domineering aura, looking cute and fierce. It was very slippery all the way. In order to prevent the little guy from falling again, Gu Jiao carried him all the way to the entrance of the Imperial College. Aya. Little Jing Kong's face was completely red. He was a mature child. He could be hugged at home, but not outside. However, he really liked Jiao Jiao's hugs and couldn't bear to reject it. Gu Jiao carried him to the entrance before putting him down. Little Jing Kong was intoxicated. Although he made the 3 adults angry early in the morning, he was still very happy to go to school with Jiao Jiao. We're here. Gu Jiao rubbed his little face. Okay. Little Jing Kong nodded reluctantly. Then I'll go in. Gu Jiao bent down and looked at him at eye level. She tidied his clothes. Be good and listen to the teacher. Little Jing Kong patted his chest and promised. I will. These were not words to show off. The teachers of the Imperial College were much better than the teachers of the county town's private schools, especially the teachers of the gifted class. They were all quite talented. Indeed, most of the content they taught was new knowledge that Little Jing Kong had not learned before. Little Jing Kong learned it quite seriously. Go in. Gu Jiao patted him on the shoulder. Jiao Jiao, goodbye. Little Jing Kong waved at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao watched him enter the Imperial College with a smile. He was the youngest student in the entire Imperial College. If not for the Imperial College uniform, no one would dare to believe that he was a student of the prodigy class. Gu Jiao didn't turn around and leave until she couldn't see him anymore. The Imperial College was divided into 2 large areas. The main area was the Imperial College's 6 halls, while the auxiliary area was the Imperial College's elementary school. After entering the gate, one went to the left and the other to the right. The gifted class was the innermost area of the Imperial College's elementary school. Little Jing Kong was a little late in the morning, because he was throwing a tantrum. He quickened his pace a little. Unexpectedly, when he just passed by a rockery, a child suddenly jumped out from behind the rockery. It was unclear who bumped into who first, but in short, both of them fell down. Little Jing Kong fell on his butt. He was small, so he didn't feel any pain. However, the other person cried out in pain. Little Jing Kong was simply stunned by the cry. He forgot to get up and sat on the ground, staring at the other person in a daze. It was a little boy who was about the same height as his deskmate. His deskmate was 7 years old, so little Jing Kong guessed that he was also 7 years old. However, his deskmate was very thin, but he was very fat. He was even fatter than brother Lin Qingya. He didn't know if it was because he was crying too loudly, but many people around him were attracted by him. Little Jing Kong looked at those people who swarmed over, and asked him what was going on. They looked nervous and scared, as if a little boy was about to die. Little Jing Kong tilted his head and looked at him. Did he really have a serious fall? Little Jing Kong was wondering if he should care about him. Suddenly, he saw the little boy crying and pointing at little Jing Kong. He bumped into me. He bumped into me. He bumped into me. Hurry up and catch him. The group of people surrounding the little boy looked at little Jing Kong. One of the older men. Well, little Jing Kong didn't think he was a man, but he was obviously not a woman. He was quite confused. He smiled and said to little Jing Kong in a pleasant manner, "Did you bump into my little master?" He was smiling, but little Jing Kong didn't feel his kindness. Little Jing Kong got up by himself, thought seriously and corrected him. "I didn't look at the road, but he didn't look at the road either. If he saw me, he would avoid me. I didn't walk fast. So, you can't say that I bumped into him, we bumped into each other." The older man smiled faintly. "Then it was you who bumped into my family's young master. Don't be afraid, my family's young master is not an unreasonable person. Go over and apologize to my family's young master, and this matter will be over." Children were easy to coax. After apologizing, the little master would regain his dignity, and everything would be fine. Little Jing Kong didn't want to do that. He looked at the older man in shock. "He bumped into me too. Why do I have to apologize to him? Will he apologize to me after I apologize to him?" The older man choked. The little boy kicked his legs on the ground and cried, "I don't want to apologize to him. Catch him. Catch him. Catch him. I want to punish him." Little Jing Kong's ears were about to go deaf. How could there be such a crying child? The commotion was too loud, and it attracted a lot of onlookers. A few teachers also heard the commotion and came over. The teachers called their students back to their classes, leaving only Teacher Jiang in the prodigy class. Teacher Jiang received the news last night that a new student would be joining the prodigy class. This student didn't pass the entrance exam, but he had an extraordinary status, and the directorate couldn't reject him. Teacher Jiang understood the situation from the two little boys. The little boy said loudly, "He bumped into me." Little Jing Kong said seriously, "No, we bumped into each other." Teacher Jiang didn't side with the little boy, and he didn't ask little Jing Kong to apologize to him. Based on Teacher Jiang's understanding of little Jing Kong, he wouldn't deny it if he was the one who bumped into him. In fact, it was a very small matter. He just needed to reason with the two students, shake hands and make peace. Little Jing Kong was a reasonable child. If the other party was willing to make peace, he wouldn't harp on it. But the little boy didn't agree. He had never been wronged like this in his entire life. "I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. He didn't kowtow to me. I'm going to arrest him." He was so anxious that the little fatty jumped up and down. Little Jing Kong felt the ground tremble. What happened? Zheng Sai walked over with a dignified expression. Teacher Jiang bowed to him. "Lord Zheng." The young chancellor was dead, and the old chancellor had resigned. Zheng Sai had become the highest official in the directorate. A few days ago, with the help of Grand Tutor Zhuang, he temporarily took over the position of chancellor. If nothing went wrong, he would officially become the next chancellor of the directorate next year. He put on airs, but the moment he saw the little boy, he lowered his head and cupped his hands in greeting. Little Jing Kong knew that only juniors bowed to their elders, and students bowed to their teachers. This little boy was obviously neither Zheng Sai's elder nor his teacher. Then why did Zheng Sai bow to him? "Excuse me, what happened?" Zheng Sai asked with a smile. The little boy stomped his feet. "How many times have I told you? He bumped into me. He knocked me down." Little Jing Kong frowned. "I've told you many times, we bumped into each other." "How dare you? Who gave you the guts to speak like that? You didn't look where you were going, and you still want to blame." Zheng Sai was about to call him that, But he remembered that he entered the directorate as a commoner. He quickly changed his words and said, Students of the directorate must be honest. Where are your etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame? Where are all the rules you learned? Little Jingkong was very angry. He shouted, I'm not being dishonest. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful. The two of us bumped into each other. I didn't bump into him, and he didn't bump into me. We bumped into each other at the same time. Why didn't anyone listen to him properly? Wasn't his voice loud enough? Wasn't his height tall enough? Why? He wasn't a child who didn't want to admit his mistakes, but he couldn't admit mistakes that didn't belong to him. Teacher Jiang also felt that Zheng Sai didn't do the right thing. If the two chancellors were still here, they wouldn't have allowed this to happen. Lord Zheng, he said. Zheng Sai interrupted him coldly, shut up. So this is the student that you taught? Little Jingkong clenched his fists, stretched his arms back, and refuted. Teacher Jiang didn't do anything wrong. The student he taught is very outstanding. I'm very outstanding. You're the one who should shut up. There are still two people to be interrogated, and you didn't even ask me. You're not fair at all. You don't deserve to be my teacher. Little Jingkong was also anxious, which was why he said so many ruthless words. In the few years when he was growing up, neither the abbot nor his teacher ever asked him to shut up just because they couldn't win an argument. Whoever had the right to speak had the right to speak. Gu Jiao was the same. Zheng Sai's face turned red from being insulted by a 3-year-old child. However, he was Sai after all. He wouldn't be defeated by a child so quickly. He said angrily, Fine. I think you need to be punished for not respecting your teacher. Guards, bring me a ruler. Hearing that little Jingkong was going to be punished with a ruler, the little boy smiled triumphantly. At this moment, a thin figure walked over. Although he was holding a walking stick, he was like a pine tree in the snow, emitting an awe-inspiring and powerful aura. Everyone was stunned, first because of his aura, and second because of his appearance. This person looked too. Zheng Sai was shocked when he first saw Xiao Lulang and Shi Yi, but now he was used to it. There were many people who looked alike in the world. He had investigated all 8 generations of his ancestors. And he was just a bumpkin from a county with a family. He had nothing to do with the little Marquis of Zhaodu. Xiao Lulang said indifferently, Who is Zheng Sai going to punish with the ruler? Zheng Sai frowned. He didn't like Xiao Lulang, but Royal Princeton liked him. He said impatiently, Mind your own business. Brother-in-law. Little Jingkong didn't feel wronged at first, but when he saw Xiao Lulang, he felt wronged. He rushed over and hugged Xiao Liulang's thigh, his eyes red. Xiao Lulang rubbed his little head and protected him in his arms. His cold eyes swept across the crowd. When he saw the little boy, there was no change in his eyes. A country has its own laws, and a family has its own rules. You want to punish you, but who are you to punish him? If he's just a student of the Imperial College, then you don't have the right to punish him. Why don't you tell me who you are, and whether you have the right to punish him? The little boy choked. He couldn't say. If he said it, he would be going against the imperial order. The little boy immediately wilted. He restrained the person with the highest status first, and the group of servants didn't dare to make a sound. Xiao Lulang then looked coldly at Zheng Sai. He doesn't respect his teacher, but if someone doesn't respect his teacher, how can he respect his teacher? Zheng Sai choked. Xiao Lulang said sarcastically, Speaking of rules, Zheng Sai, your actions today have violated the 78th rule of the Imperial College. Next time, before you raise your ruler, you might as well think about whose body it should land on first. What was 77, 78? He didn't even remember that he was Sai, so who did this brat think he was? The Chancellor of the Imperial College? He even dared to set up rules with him. Zheng Sai was embarrassed by a new student in front of an important figure, so he couldn't keep his face. You make a trip to Minghui Hall. He wanted to dampen this brat's spirit. Xiao Lulang looked at him fearlessly. Minghui Hall is a place that only the Chancellor has the right to enter. Is Lord Sai already the Chancellor? Zheng Sai was so angry that he fell backwards. This brat actually mocked him for not being the real Chancellor. Xiao Lulang said, I have to go to class. Substitute Chancellor, take care. The last sentence was like a machete stabbing into his heart. Zheng Sai felt that his chest was in pain. Xiao Lulang didn't care about this group of people anymore. He held little Jing Kong's hand and sent little Jing Kong to his classroom. Little Jing Kong wasn't a delicate child. He was already fine, but he was still a little depressed. What's wrong? Xiao Lulang asked. Little Jing Kong raised his head and asked seriously. Why didn't they listen to me properly? Am I too young and they can't hear me? Xiao Lulang didn't deliberately create a beautiful world. He said, it's not that you're young, it's that you're not standing high enough. Little Jing Kong thought for a moment. He was indeed standing on a relatively low-level ground just now. He said, then next time I'll step on a stool when I speak. Xiao Lulang didn't explain that this was not the case. He patted the little guy's shoulder and said, go in. Little Jing Kong hesitated. He took out a small stone from his pocket and muttered, my little stone said that it doesn't want to go to class today. Xiao Lulang heartlessly confiscated the stone. If it doesn't want to go, you go. Little Jing Kong, who failed to play truant, was speechless. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114624450. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikago mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 148. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are available here. Not long after little Jing Kong sat down, the boy also entered the class. Teacher Jiang arranged for him to sit in the middle row. Little Jing Kong was small, so he sat in the first row. Maybe Xiao Lulang hit his soft spot. Or maybe they were far apart, but the first day passed peacefully. Teacher Jiang introduced the new student as Chuyu. In fact, his name was Qin Chuyu. Qin Chuyu spent a torturous day in the Imperial College. He couldn't understand Teacher Jiang's class at all, and he couldn't even sit still. When school was finally over, he didn't even take his school bag with him and rushed out of the Imperial College. He came to school with a hidden identity, so the people who came to pick him up also came in disguise. Your Highness. The coachman greeted him in a small voice. Your Highness? So annoying. Qin Chuyu frowned impatiently and got into the carriage. Inside the carriage, the crown princess, who was wearing a golden gauze dress, was sitting on the couch reading a book. She looked dignified, elegant, and beautiful. Seeing the angry Qin Chuyu, she put down the book in her hand and looked at him gently. What's wrong? Who bullied little Qi? Qin Chuyu sat down beside the crown princess and said angrily, Sister-in-law lied to me. The Imperial College is not fun at all. I shouldn't have gone if I knew. Are you still angry about what happened this morning? The crown princess had been waiting here for a long time. So naturally, someone reported to her about Qin Chuyu's situation. I heard that it was a 3-year-old child. You're a prince. Don't you have any tolerance? Who said I didn't? Qin Chuyu put his hands on his hips. The crown princess smiled. I knew little Qi was the most obedient. He wouldn't argue with ordinary people. Of course. Qin Chuyu didn't expect to be praised so highly. He couldn't take it off. However, he still didn't want to go to school. The classes at the Imperial College were too difficult. The students weren't allowed to be distracted or take breaks. After a whole day, his neck was aching. However, he couldn't say that he didn't understand. That would be too embarrassing. He suddenly thought of that 3-year-old kid. Why did he seem to understand? He's so young. Has he been weaned? Humph. Seeing that he was still throwing a tantrum, the crown princess took out a food box and gently opened the lid. A milky fragrance wafted out and filled the entire carriage. Qin Shuyu's attention was immediately attracted, and he began to drool. The fact that he was able to grow into a little fatty was enough to show that his resistance to food was weaker than that of ordinary people. He looked at the mutton milk cake in the box and swallowed his saliva. The Crown Princess smiled gently and said, "To celebrate little Qi's first day at the directorate, I'll reward you with a piece of mutton milk cake." Qin Shiyu blinked and said in disbelief, Can I eat it?" The Crown Princess smiled and said, "Of course." Qin Shiyu asked while drooling, "Father and mother won't blame me, right?" Because he ate too much, he became the fattest little fatty in the imperial palace. His father and mother didn't allow him to eat these delicious snacks anymore. The Crown Princess said gently, "Don't worry." Mother agreed. "As long as you come to class obediently, you can eat one piece every day after school." Qin Shiyu sat up straight. "Then I'll come to school. I'll come to school every day." The Crown Princess tapped the tip of his little nose. "Not only do you have to go to school, but you also have to go to school and listen carefully. Don't bully others. You're a prince, you're the emperor, and they're the people. You should protect them and not bully them." "I know." Qin Shiyu reached out to grab it. "Hey." The Crown Princess grabbed his chubby hand. "Wipe your hands first." Qin Shiyu suppressed his desire to eat it. "Then hurry up, royal sister-in-law." The Crown Princess smiled, took a handkerchief, and wet it with tea for him to wipe his hands. Only then did Qin Shiyu grab the mutton milk cake in the food box and start to eat it. The female official on the side whispered, "The Crown Princess has a way. Even the Empress can't do anything to the seventh prince." The Crown Princess looked at Qin Shiyu dotingly. He was engrossed in eating the mutton milk cake and didn't hear their conversation. She said, "You can't say that. The Empress is a kind mother. She can't bear to scold little Qi too much." Qin Shiyu was the Empress' youngest son, and the Crown Prince's twin brother. He was born as a legitimate prince. Other than the Crown Prince, he was the noblest among the royal children. Other people didn't dare to offend him. Even if they offended him, they didn't have the heart to discipline him. As a result, he developed this arrogant and domineering personality. The emperor was busy with the court, and came to the harem less and less in recent years. A few days ago, he took the eldest prince to Jiangnan incognito and left for several months. When he returned to the palace, he found that Qin Shiyu was spoiled beyond recognition. That was why he cruelly ordered Qin Shiyu to be sent to the Imperial College. He knew Qin Shiyu's personality very well. To prevent the people in the Imperial College from being afraid of him and giving in to him because of his identity as a prince, he ordered everyone to keep their mouths shut. Even Qin Shiyu himself couldn't reveal that he was a prince. Once discovered, he would be served in a small dark room. Otherwise, why would Qin Shiyu be scared out of his wits when Xiao Lulang forced him to reveal his identity? However, Qin Shiyu was used to being a tyrant in the palace, so he didn't really care about a 3-year-old kid. It wouldn't be too late for him to deal with the kid when his father didn't control him that much anymore. As Qin Shiyu ate, he was gradually mesmerized by the delicious food. Soon the only thing left in his mind was the mutton milk cake. Return to the palace, the Crown Princess ordered. When the princes reached a certain age, they would build another prince residence outside the palace. Except for the Crown Prince, who lived in the Eastern Palace. The 7th prince was young, but he also lived in the palace. The carriage moved forward slowly. As it drove away from the Imperial College, the Crown Princess inadvertently glanced at it. Coincidentally, Xiao Lulang came out of the Imperial College with little Jing Kong. The Crown Princess's pupils contracted when she saw that familiar handsome face. She pulled open the curtain of the carriage window and looked at the white-clothed young man in the crowd with shining eyes. She murmured in disbelief, "How can it be? Jiao Jiao." Accompanied by a crisp call from little Jing Kong, a young girl in green clothes with a small basket on her back walked over. The young girl didn't wear a veil. Her clothes were simple and plain. It wasn't shabby, but it wasn't noble either. Her long hair reached her waist and was as black as satin. She used a white magnolia hairpin to tie her hair into a bun on top of her head. She was a beautiful and cold young girl. The young girl had a red birthmark on the left side of her face, but she didn't care about it at all. She calmly walked through the strange gazes. The young girl came to the little guy and the young man from the Imperial College and pinched the little guy's face. Only then did the crown princess notice that the little guy was also unbelievably cute. However, she didn't associate him with the little guy who offended Qin Chiyu for the time being. Jiao Jiao, Jiao Jiao. Little Jing Kong was overjoyed to see Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao rubbed his little head. It had snowed on the way here. Although it had stopped now, snowflakes still fell from her hair. Xiao Lulang hesitated for a moment. Then, he reached out with his slender fingers and gently plucked the snowflakes from her hair. Gu Jiao didn't move and obediently let him do it. She looked rather obedient. The scene of the family of three was so heartwarming that it was a bit dazzling. The crown princess pinched her fingertips. Then, she saw the young girl take out a bag of hot sugar-fried chestnuts from the small basket on her back and hand one to him. The young man ate it without hesitation. "Is it good?" Gu Jiao asked. "Yes, it's sweet," Xiao Lulang said. She didn't know who he was referring to. Gu Jiao gave the sugar-fried chestnuts to little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong chewed on the chestnuts like a little squirrel looking for food. The family of three left peacefully. The crown princess put down the curtains. He was already dead. He didn't eat chestnuts. No matter how much they looked like each other, it couldn't be him. "Crown princess, what's wrong?" The female official looked at her pale face and asked. She said calmly, "It's so cold. Let's go back to the palace." Xiao Lulang completely offended Zheng Sai after he contradicted him in Meng Shui. For Zheng Sai to be able to climb to such a high position, it was true that he had real talent. His essays were excellent, and even His Majesty, who did not like eight-legged essays, would occasionally praise him. However, talent was one thing, and virtue was sometimes another. Zheng Sai bore a grudge against Xiao Lulang for making him lose face in front of His Highness the Seventh Prince and those people. He began to secretly make things difficult for Xiao Lulang. First, Xiao Lulang got the last place in the straightforwardness hall in the monthly exam. The Imperial College had a rule that anyone who failed the exam twice would be demoted. In other words, Xiao Lulang would be directly kicked out of the straightforwardness hall if he got the last place again. Although the teachers were puzzled as to why Xiao Lulang did so poorly, they believed that it couldn't be wrong since the substitute chancellor personally marked the exam papers. The exam was just the beginning. Soon, Xiao Lulang found that when he went to eat at the Imperial College, he always had less food than other people. Feng Lin said strangely, "That's not right. Why do you have so little food?" He said that he only had vegetables and didn't even prepare leaves. It was just a single vegetable leaf mixed with a big bowl of soup. After that, there would always be people who would inexplicably bump into Xiao Lulang. When he passed by the Quanshu winding corridor, a supervisor of the Imperial College bumped into him and splashed the ink on Xiao Lulang. "How can you walk?" Feng Lin shouted. I'm sorry. That person repeatedly apologized. This was already the third time today. That person was clearly being threatened. His entire body was trembling. Xiao Lulang glanced at him indifferently and didn't say anything. He expressionlessly went to Feng Lin and Lin Qingye's room to change into a clean set of clothes. When he came out, he didn't know who took away his crutches. The road was slippery. Without his crutches, he fell several times on the short distance of 100 steps from his room to the straightforwardness hall. People around him roared with laughter. It was probably because a heavy snowfall was brewing. The sky was very dark, and the Imperial College that was shrouded in darkness also revealed its darkness. Xiao Lulang climbed up from the snowy ground. Although he was in a sorry state, his spine was perfectly straight. He raised his head and looked at the bright radiance hall on the third floor of the Imperial College. On the walkway in front of the hall, Zheng Sai held onto the railing and calmly looked at Xiao Lulang. Beg for mercy, kid. Kneel down and kowtow. If you beg, this lord will let you go. Xiao Lulang calmly looked at him. There was no anger, grief, or fear in his eyes. There was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. They were like a lake that had been still for 10,000 years. For some reason, Zheng Sai suddenly felt a little guilty, but he quickly shook his head. He was just a bumpkin from the countryside. If he wanted to bully him, so be it. Who told him to be so blind and embarrass him in front of so many people? In the Imperial College, he was the heavens. No one could offend his authority. Steward Lu had been secretly paying attention to Xiao Liulong's movements in the Imperial College. Very quickly, a servant reported the latest situation to him. When Steward Lu heard this, he smiled faintly. I already said that it's not easy to survive in the capital. Alright, go and meet this young master. There were no classes in Little Jingkong today. Xiao Liulang returned home from school alone. When he walked out of the Imperial College, Steward Lu had been waiting in the carriage for a long time. Steward Lu, the young master is here. The servant reminded him. Steward Lu got out of the carriage and came in front of Xiao Liulang. He smiled faintly and greeted him. Young master, we meet again. Xiao Liulang glanced at him. What do you want now? Steward Lu smiled. I heard about what happened at the Imperial College. Young master, you have suffered. Xiao Liulang said. There's no need to laugh at me. Steward Lu said. It's just Sai. The Marquis can crush him with his fingers. In fact, as long as the young master is willing to return to the estate, I can guarantee that there will be no such person at the Imperial College starting tomorrow. Xiao Liulang ignored him and walked in the direction of his home. Steward Lu smiled faintly. Young master, why bother? Yes, it was the Marquis who let you and your mother down. He didn't bring you back to the estate in time, but you can't blame the Marquis alone. You can't blame the Marquis for what happened 4 years ago. He only knew about it afterward. After he knew about it, he began to ask around about your whereabouts. The Marquis was very sad about your mother's death. He also heard about what happened to your eldest brother. Fortunately, you're fine. Xiao Liulang clenched his fists. Steward Lu advised him. The capital is more complicated than you think. Without a strong backer, you can only find that you can't do anything even if you want to stand out. This is only the beginning. If this goes on, you will be eaten until there are no bones left. So young master, you should obediently return to the estate with me. Isn't it good to be the son of Marquis Xianping? Why do you have to suffer outside? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428266/114594790. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 149. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Xiao Liulang looked at him coldly. Are these your words or his? His. Who would call their own father like that? Does he know who his father is? He is a first-rank martial marquis, second only to one person and above thousands of people. Since ancient times, no one has been able to hold a post in the court. Marquis Xianping was the first. He had single-handedly restrained the entire Zhuang clan, and was the most trusted person of the current emperor. He married a princess himself, and his younger sister became the empress. He also successfully suppressed the eldest prince, and sent his nephew to the position of crown prince. Believe it or not, as long as he said, Marquis Xianping needs a son, people who are willing to be his son can line up from Zhao to Liang. But this young master was different. Did he need to care whether every word was the Marquis's? Wouldn't it be better to obediently return to the residence and be a powerful young master? Steward Lu smiled and said, If the Marquis didn't want to take you back, do you think I would dare? This was the truth. As for how to take him back and whether he would take any measures during the process, it was Steward Lu's job. Most people wouldn't think of this, but Steward Lu always felt that every word he said was true and false was seen through by the young man in front of him. This feeling was not good. Steward Lu frowned and then smiled and said, Young master, it's the 12th lunar month. Are you really not going to consider going back to the Marquis's residence for the new year? Xiao Lulang ignored him and turned towards the direction of Jadewater Alley. Today was a holiday. Little Jing Kong didn't come to the Imperial College, so he went home alone. He had found his walking stick and changed his clothes. There was no sign that he had been bullied in the Imperial College. Looking at his stubborn back, the servant asked, "Steward Liu, are we really not going to help the young master and just watch him be bullied by the Imperial College?" Steward Liu hesitated for a moment. Every time he thought he could control the other party always escaped from his control. The servant said, "Steward Liu, why don't we?" Steward Liu raised his hand and stopped him from continuing. "Let's wait a little longer. I don't believe that he can still be as stubborn as before when he enters the Imperial College. The capital wasn't a county, and Zheng Sai wasn't a mere county magistrate. Did he think that this was all he could do to make things difficult for him? There were many people like Zheng Sai. One day, he would not be able to hold on." The manservant reminded, "Steward Liu, young master is too stubborn. Why don't we think of another way? You promised the Marquis that you would bring the young master back for the new year. There's only 1 month left." At the mention of this, Steward Liu frowned. At first he didn't think it was a difficult task, and even boasted in front of Master Ho. When he went to the county town, it was not yet summer. He felt that he had enough time, and was not in a hurry. Who knew that half a year would pass in the blink of an eye? But what other way was there to do it? The page boy said embarrassedly. "Isn't young master married? Perhaps that young madam is willing to become the young madam of the Marquis's estate?" Steward Liu narrowed his eyes. "You mean that Ding, and Marquis Fu's daughter who has wandered among the common people? Since she was his young master's wife, how could Steward Liu not investigate her identity? Moreover, Ding and Marquis Fu did not hide it very well. It was very easy to find out that she was the real daughter, and that Gu Jinyu was the fake daughter that was brought home. Steward Liu did not pay too much attention to this daughter. Because he did not care, he did not pay attention and did not think of investigating her." The page boy saw that Steward Liu had listened and hurriedly said, "That young madam grew up in the countryside. I heard that she is very timid, and does not dare return to the manor. However, she is very good to young master. This one has come to the Imperial College several times to inquire about news, and has always seen her waiting outside for young master." Steward Liu thought for a bit and smiled. That is one way. Steward Liu did not know that Gu Jiao had opened a medical clinic with someone else. He directly went to Jadewater Alley. The matriarch was happily playing cards with several neighbors and did not have time to pay attention to him. "If you want to see a doctor, go to Miracle Hand Hall." "What did she say?" Steward Liu asked from inside the carriage. The page boy scratched his head. "It seems she wants us to go to Miracle Hand Hall." "What is Miracle Hand Hall?" Steward Liu had never heard of it. The page boy thought for a while and said with uncertainty, "It seems to be a newly opened medical clinic next to the girls' school." At this time, Gu Jiao did not know that she was being remembered by someone. In the girls' school, a girl fell from the back of a horse and dislocated her arm. She had just been brought in. She was crying so hard that she was unrecognizable. "What is your name?" Gu Jiao asked. My name is... She cried until she hiccuped. Gu Jiao reached out to look at her arm. She was afraid of pain and howled like a pig being slaughtered. "Don't touch me," Gu Jiao said. "I won't touch you. The back of your hand is bruised. I will clean your wound and will not touch your arm." Really? She looked at Gu Jiao with a face of disbelief. "Really?" Gu Jiao gently held her hand in her palm and avoided her dislocated arm. "Your hand is so beautiful. What do you usually use to wash it?" Everyone liked to be praised. She sniffled and said, "Rose water." After washing." "I use vanishing cream." Gu Jiao said. "I see other people use it, but their skin is not as good as yours." She said, "Isn't that because I was born beautiful?" Before she could finish speaking, Gu Jiao had already reconnected her arm. The beautiful girl looked at herself in the bronze mirror, and was so scared that she trembled and almost fainted. Where did this crazy woman come from? So ugly. What kind of doctor was this? How could he continue to praise her when she was in such a state? The medical clinic had been open for many days, but there was not much business. Because of the riding and shooting class, the girls' school contributed to the medical clinic's monthly sales. After that little girl, there were a few people who were slightly injured or frightened. Gu Jiao was so busy that her feet didn't touch the ground. After sending away another patient with a slight injury, the wooden door of the treatment room was pushed open again. What's wrong? Gu Jiao buried her head in arranging the medicine on the table and asked. The other person didn't speak. Gu Jiao raised her head strangely and saw a woman in a lake blue short coat and a white flowing dress standing at the door with a smile. Unlike last time when she was weak and pale, her face was much rosier. Do you still remember me, Miss Gu? She asked with a smile. Gu Jiao nodded. Third princess consort. She didn't salute, but the third princess consort didn't mind. The third princess consort stepped in and said jokingly, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Third princess consort, please sit down. Gu Jiao began the treatment process for the patient in a formal way. The third princess consort curled her lips and sat down on the chair. She put her hand on the table and gave it to her. Let me take a look at the wound first, Gu Jiao said. Can we not do it here? The third princess consort asked. Okay. Gu Jiao took the third princess consort to her yard. This yard was left to her by the second boss. No one else had been here except for her and her family. The stitches on the third princess consort's wound had been removed, and it had healed well. Gu Jiao felt her pulse again. It was also very stable. It's okay. Third princess consort, don't worry, she said. Well, the third princess consort hesitated and said softly, Do you have any medicine that won't leave a scar? She could use scar ointment and scar paste, but she didn't have these two medicines in her medicine box yet. Moreover, she couldn't use the medicine now. She had to wait until the wound healed completely. Gu Jiao paused and said, I don't have any special medicine now. Come back in 3 days. Okay, the third princess consort agreed. Seeing that she was cold, Gu Jiao took the kettle from the stove and poured a cup of hot tea for her. Thank you. The third princess consort picked up the teacup and took a sip. Her body finally warmed up. She looked at the furnishings in the room and couldn't help but ask, Do you live in the clinic? Gu Jiao said, No, I live nearby. The third princess consort had only met Gu Jiao twice, and there was a big gap between their identities. But somehow, she felt that Gu Jiao was very close to her. The third princess consort looked at Gu Jiao. You don't sound like someone from the capital. Gu Jiao said, I'm from the county town. The third princess consort nodded. How old are you? Gu Jiao said, 15. The third princess consort smiled. I'm a few years older than you. My surname is Du. Gu Jiao wasn't good at talking. She always answered whatever the third princess consort asked. But since she was willing to answer, it meant that she had a good impression of the third princess consort. What is that? The third princess consort was a zither fanatic. It was easy for her to notice things related to the zither. Gu Jiao looked at the box on the table and said, Gu Qin. It was a zither that little Jing Kong gave her. She made a zither box to store it. It was different from the ones sold on the market. Because of this, the third princess consort did not recognize it at a glance. Can I see it? The third princess consort asked. And Gu Jiao nodded. The third princess consort put down her teacup and walked behind the table. She carefully opened the zither box. A charred ancient zither caught her eye. Just from its appearance, there was nothing special about this zither. It was the style of the Fuxi zither. Was it another imitation zither? The third princess consort was a bit disappointed. Everyone on the market would be proud of getting a better imitation Fuxi zither. The third princess consort would rather use a normal zither than an imitation Fuxi zither. When the country of Chun offered the moon shadow Fuxi zither as a tribute, it was the best imitation zither. His Majesty originally wanted to give it to her, but she refused. It was rumored that not long after, it was awarded to the daughter of Marquis Ding and Fu. The third princess consort originally wanted to play a song, But now she did not have the desire to play. She touched the end of the zither and politely praised it a few times before closing the lid. Then, she saw a token placed on the table. Little Jinkong had been here to play with it, but he had forgotten to put it back. The smart and clever little Jinkong had a big weakness, which was that he didn't know how to tidy things up. This token was too familiar. The third princess consort picked it up and asked in astonishment, "Miss Gu Yu, how did you get this?" Gu Jiao calmly said, "I picked it up." The third princess consort secretly let out a sigh of relief and said, "This is Marquis Xianping Fu's token. It's an old token. Don't let other people see it to avoid unnecessary trouble." This was not the first time someone had told her that getting involved with Marquis Xianping Fu would cause trouble. "What is an old token?" Gu Jiao asked. The third princess consort pointed at the totem on the token. "This is a picture from over 10 years ago. Later on, they felt that the meaning was not clear, so they removed the vine from here. That vine was only a small one. Normal people would not be able to see it. She was a prince consort. She had to be familiar with all the pictures related to the imperial family. This token looked quite old, but Gu Jiao did not expect it to be this old. The two spoke for a while more before the third princess consort bid farewell. On the other side, the girls' school was also dismissed. The medical center was now mainly used for girls' school business. Now that they had returned home, the business for the day was basically over. The second boss left Song He to stand guard at the medical center. Gu Jiao carried her basket and returned home. Just as she turned the corner, a carriage stopped in front of her. A middle-aged man dressed in luxurious clothes walked down from the carriage. He had a broad heart and a fat body. He looked honest and had a good temper, but his shrewd eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. "Excuse me, are you Ding and Marquis Fu's Miss Gu?" The middle-aged man cupped his hands in a pleasant manner. It was clearly a question, but he spoke with a firm tone. Gu Jiao calmly looked at him. "Who are you?" Steward Lu smiled and said, "My surname is Lu. I wonder if the young master has ever mentioned me to you?" "Which young master?" Gu Jiao asked. Steward Lu was a little surprised. Were the two of them so distant? He had come so many times, but the young master had never mentioned him to her. He reminded her, "I even sent someone to your home to deliver a New Year's gift. Unfortunately, the young master did not accept it." Oh, saying this, Gu Jiao had an impression. Not long ago, someone had come with a cart of silver charcoal. Xiao Lulang did not even think about it and rejected it. "Your young master, my husband?" Gu Jiao asked. Steward Lu beamed with joy. "That is correct." Gu Jiao paused then asked, "From Xianping Marquis Fu?" Steward Lu was startled, since the young master had never mentioned him to her. How did she know that the young master was from Xianping Marquis Fu? The newest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114591108. HTML Genius 1 second. Remember this website address. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 150. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. Gu Jiao didn't know. She was just guessing. That token was picked up by Xuaningxiang from the place where Xiao Lulang fainted. The beautiful monk and the third princess consort both said that it was the token of Marquis Xianping's estate, so there shouldn't be a mistake. This person was also called Young Master Xiao Lulang. A series of information was put together to form the question he had asked Steward Lu earlier. Steward Lu came to find her this time to use her to persuade the young master to return to the estate. He didn't plan to hide his identity, so he answered truthfully. That's right, the young master is the young master of Marquis Xianping's estate. Gu Jiao digested it for a moment. Oh. Oh. Steward Lu was puzzled. This isn't the first time you've heard of it, right? This reaction was too calm. Gu Jiao wasn't someone who cared about status. Whether Xiao Lulang was the master of Marquis Xianping's estate or a servant didn't make a difference to her. However, there was one thing she didn't understand. Since he's the young master of Marquis Xianping's estate, why isn't he willing to go back with you? She wasn't deliberately inquiring about each other's secrets, but they came to find her. She couldn't sell out her own husband without knowing anything. Steward Lu sighed. It's a long story. If young madam isn't in a hurry, can we go to a tea house? There was a tea house next to them. Gu Jiao didn't refuse and went with Steward Lu. Steward Lu secretly thought that this young madam's brain wasn't working well. She just left with a stranger like this? Didn't she look at his token or something? If Steward Lu knew Gu Jiao's ability, he should be worried about himself. Steward Lu didn't care about Gu Jiao, but he didn't have any malice. He also didn't want to do anything to separate the young couple. He believed that the Marquis wouldn't do that either. The Marquis himself was powerful enough. He didn't need to rely on his son's marriage to consolidate the relationship between Marquis Xianping's estate and the various aristocratic families. As for whether her status was worthy or not, although she grew up in the countryside, she was still a legitimate daughter of the Marquis's estate. Matched with this young master, it was barely enough. Steward Lu asked for a room on the second floor. Facing the street, one could see the endless stream of Black Tortoise Street through the window. The two of them sat down facing each other. Steward Lu asked, "Does young madam prefer Biluakun or Longjing tea?" "It doesn't matter," Gu Jiao said. Steward Lu smiled and brewed a pot of Longjing tea. "This is this year's new tea." Gu Jiao was not interested in tea. She mixed it with cold water and drank it all. She was indeed thirsty. Steward Lu was dumbfounded. The young master was a weirdo, but the young madam he married was not to be outdone. "Let's get down to business," Gu Jiao said calmly. "Hey." Steward Lu came back to his senses and sighed. He explained Xiao Liulang's background. Actually, young master is the Marquis' illegitimate son. This matter started from 18 or 19 years ago when Marquis Gu went to Jiangnan to control the flood. That year, there was a flood in Jiangnan, causing thousands of acres of farmland to be destroyed and the people to become homeless. The cause was not only a natural disaster, but also a man-made disaster. The silver used by the imperial court to build the dam was embezzled by the local officials. They cut corners on the construction of the dam and failed to stop the flood, causing irreparable damage. At that time, the Marquis was not as powerful as he was now. His Majesty sent him to Jiangnan to investigate the truth of the dam. The local tyrants tried to bribe the Marquis to hide the truth. The Marquis did not want to be with them. As a result, they retaliated. On the way back to the capital, he was stabbed 7 or 8 times by assassins. "I remember it was near Song County," Steward Lu recalled. Steward Lu had followed the Marquis of Xianping since he was young. He was one of the few people who fought with him for half of the country. However, he was sent to other places by the Marquis for more than 10 years. He was only summoned back by the Marquis last year. There was no medical center there. After the Marquis was injured, he found a doctor nearby. Because of his serious injury, he had to live in the doctor's house. The doctor's medical skills were not very good. Although he saved his life, it left the Marquis with an illness. Of course, this was a story for later. When the Marquis was recuperating in the doctor's house, there was a family of 3 living next door. The male owner was a gambler and drunkard. The youngest son was only a few years old. The Marquis could hear the sound of the man beating and scolding the woman, and the child almost every day. However, this was someone else's family matter, and the Marquis could not interfere. Unexpectedly one time, the man gambled and lost his child to someone else. The woman hugged the man's thigh and begged him not to take the child away. The man punched and kicked the woman and almost beat her to death. The Marquis next door could not bear it. Plus, he was young and aggressive. He took a sword and rushed over to the man to cut him. The man was seriously injured and died. The woman became a widow. The Marquis pitied her and gave her some silver. Coincidentally, the doctor's relatives were victims of the flood. They brought their families to the doctor. There was no place to live in the doctor's house, and the Marquis could not go too far for treatment. "Benefactor, if you don't mind, you can live in my house," the woman said. There was no need for Steward Lu to say what happened after that. Gu Jiao could imagine it herself. The Marquis stayed there for half a year until his injury was completely healed. The Marquis asked her if she wanted to go to the capital with him. She hesitated. The Marquis did not like to force people, so he gave her a token and told her that if she thought it through, she could go to the capital to find him at any time. Steward Lu sighed. Oh, the Marquis still doesn't understand women. Gu Jiao was not the person involved, so she did not comment. Steward Lu said, "Many years have passed since then. If the young master hadn't come to find the Marquis with that token and the Marquis's clothes 4 years ago, the Marquis wouldn't have known that she was pregnant, and even secretly gave birth to their son." Gu Jiao asked, "You mean Xiao Lulang went to the capital 4 years ago?" Steward Lu, yes. Gu Jiao, did he live in the capital for a long time? Steward Lu shook his head regretfully. No, the young master came at a bad time. There were several murders in the capital, and the Marquis was in the Ministry of Justice. When he finally came back, something big happened. The young Marquis passed away. He was the only son of the Marquis. The Marquis suffered a great blow and did not see anyone. The young master gave the token to a servant, and after a long time, the servant reported it to the Marquis. The young master had already left the capital by then. Gu Jiao paused. So he only lived in the capital for a few months? Lu Guanshui thought for a while. It should be less than a month. Gu Jiao thought for a while. Oh. Steward Lu said. The young master's mother only told the young master about his past before she died. The young master and his half-brother went to the capital to look for his father. They did not expect that they would not see his father, and that his brother would accidentally come into contact with a leper. The young master was worried that his brother would be caught and put on the leper mountain, so he quickly left the capital with his brother. Gu Jiao nodded. I see. Huh. Steward Lu did not understand what she meant. Gu Jiao looked at him. Continue. Steward Lu said. After that, the Marquis sent people everywhere to look for the young master's whereabouts. It was not until last year that they found out that the young master was studying at the county town's Tianxiang Academy. The Marquis asked me to bring the young master back. I tried to persuade the young master many times, but the young master was still unable to let go of the past and refused to come back with me. Gu Jiao believed that what he said was true, but she did not know if there was anything else he did not say. Sometimes, distorting a fact did not require lying, but only a little bit of the truth. Moreover, no one could be sure that what Steward Lu knew was the whole truth. She believed that 4 years ago, there really was a Xiao Lulang who went to the capital to look for his father. However, was this Xiao Lulang really that Xiao Lulang? Gu Jiao took a sip of tea and spread out her hands. It's a pity. If he doesn't want to come back, there's nothing I can do. No, after listening for so long, this is all you're telling me? Shouldn't you be crying bitterly, grieving for your husband's past? Grieving for father and son not being able to recognize each other? Do you still have the self-awareness of a village girl? Steward Lu was anxious. If the sympathy card did not work, then he would use the trump card. He hardened his heart and said seriously, do you know that the young master was bullied at the Imperial College? What kind of place is the Imperial College? Who knows how many influential people in the capital come here to study, and the Imperial College and Imperial College students all have strong backgrounds. Young master wanted to rely on his own strength to contend against all of them. It was simply impossible. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for the young master. As long as the Marquis doesn't mind him being a cripple, and is willing to recognize him, he should go back obediently. As the young master of Marquis Xuanping's mansion, not to mention the Imperial College, he can do whatever he wants in the capital. Gu Jiao's expression finally changed a little. However, it was not because she was moved, but because she was filled with endless murderous intent and coldness. She stood up and looked down at Steward Lu, who was sitting on the cushion. Tell your Marquis that I will protect my own husband. Someone actually bullied her husband? Good, very good. Gu Jiao returned to Clearwater Alley. Xiao Lulang had already washed his dirty clothes. There was no trace of being bullied on his face. Gu Jiao looked at the clothes that were fluttering in the cold wind, and her eyes gradually turned cold. The next day, Gu Jiao found Feng Lin. Feng Lin was very surprised. Little Jing Kong said that you were looking for me. What's the matter? Gu Jiao told him why she was here. Feng Lin's eyes became evasive. That. Lulang didn't want me to tell you what happened at the Imperial College. Gu Jiao didn't say anything. She just stared at him. Feng Lin liked her as much as he hated her before. It wasn't the love between a man and a woman, but the relationship between them was like family. Feng Lin was defeated in the end. He sighed. Well, there is indeed such a thing. Lulang offended Zheng Sai. Feng Lin didn't know how he offended him. Not many people knew about little Jing Kong and Lulang. Since Lulang didn't say anything, Feng Lin didn't know where to find out. Xiao Lulang was now a top student who didn't hide his abilities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the straightforward hall. However, he got last place in the monthly exam. Apparently, it was Zheng Sai who graded him. Other people might not know about Xiao Lulang's ability, but Feng Lin and Lin Qingye had attended his classes. They didn't believe that his grades would suddenly drop like this. Feng Lin said, Lin Qingye is asking me if Zheng Sai is making things difficult for Lulang. And Wang Qi, Chen Hao Luo Du Zhao Hai. Feng Lin listed a list of names. They were all people who had made things difficult for Xiao Lulang in the past few days. Gu Jiao wrote down their names one by one in a small notebook. Some of them were coerced. Gu Jiao crossed out their names. In the end, there were 4 names left: Luo Du, Zhao Rui, Zhou Fengping, and Zheng Sai. Luo Du and Zhao Rui were supervisors. Zhou Fengping was an administrator. The straightforward hall was the head of the 6 halls. Generally speaking, no one would casually bully the students of the straightforward hall. Zhou Fengping was Zheng Sai's lackey. Zheng Sai was about to become the new chancellor. He had a chance to become the next chancellor and follow Zheng Sai's lead. As for Luo Du and Zhao Rui, they had some background in the capital. One was the young master of Duke Luo's residence. The other was the Minister of Works, the youngest son of Marquis Gu's immediate superior. But in Gu Jiao's eyes, this wasn't a problem. No one was allowed to bully her husband. Marquis Gu was at an important stage of the annual examination. Every day, he racked his brains on how to curry favor with his immediate superior. But what he didn't know was that right after he gave a generous gift to someone, his daughter had beaten that person's youngest son into a pig's head. And it was the kind that even her parents didn't recognize. On the way back to the residence, Marquis Gu looked at the sky with a puzzled expression. Why did he feel uneasy after giving so many gifts? Instead, he had a feeling that disaster was about to befall him. This feeling became stronger after Gu Jiao beat up the young master of Duke Luo's residence. Marquis Gu felt a chill down his spine. He didn't do anything, but why did he feel like he was about to be finished? After Gu Jiao beat up the directorate's prefect, Zhou Fengping, Marquis Gu was drinking water in the residence. His heart was in a panic, a complete panic. In a dark alley, Gu Jiao took out a small notebook and crossed out the 3rd name, Zhou Fengping. When her gaze fell on the last name, the black-clothed Gu Jiao's lips curled into a sinister smile. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/8964-2_89642_826/114560710. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 151. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are read for free. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Zhang Sai had been very diligent recently. He was practically living in the Imperial College. After all, he was a substitute chancellor and would soon become a true chancellor. There was nothing wrong with putting on an act. Ever since Xiao Lulang ridiculed him for not having the right to enter Minghui Hall, he had coaxed and pestered Grand Tutor Zhuang. Grand Tutor Zhuang had also put in a good word for him in front of the emperor. Now he had his own place in Minghui Hall. However, it was only the outer hall. He could only enter the inner hall after he became the chancellor. Zhang Sai stood in front of the door of the inner hall. His eyes were filled with greed. Soon this official will be able to move in. After toiling for an entire day, he was a bit hungry. He wanted someone to send food over, but there was no place to eat in the outer hall. Only the inner hall had food. He could only walk out of Minghui Hall. The attendant outside the door walked over and asked him, "Sir, are you hungry? Do you want to return to Minghui Hall to eat something? What do you want to eat? This one will have someone make it for you." Ever since he moved into Minghui Hall a few days ago, Zhang Sai was no longer willing to return to Minghui Hall. He felt that Minghui Hall was no longer worthy of his current status. He waved his hand. "Forget it. I'll go outside and find something to eat." At the same time, he wanted to wake himself up. It was almost the end of the year. He still had a lot of official documents to deal with. He really was a diligent official. Zhang Sai felt good about himself as he walked out of the Imperial College. Because he had gone out, Gu Jiao had jumped over the wall to beat him up in Minghui Hall. Gu Jiao didn't know if he would return. She was hesitating whether to wait for him here or go out to find him when she heard a very light breathing sound. There was someone hiding here. Could it be Zhang Sai? That guy was hiding? The black-clothed Gu Jiao propped herself up on the table and jumped over valiantly. She grabbed a figure from behind a pillar. In the end, "It's you?" Gu Jiao's raised little fist froze in midair. She immediately put her little fist down and stared at the other party seriously. "It's so late. What are you doing here instead of going home?" Xiao Lulang asked. "Why are you here again?" Gu Jiao was speechless. What made him even more speechless was that she was dressed in black, and he was also dressed in black. The same question flashed through their minds at the same time. "When did you buy black clothes behind my back?" In her previous life, Gu Jiao liked to dress in gaudy ways, but after coming here, her taste had changed. She mostly wore green clothes, while Xiao Lulang wore the white prison uniform of the Imperial College, or he usually wore white or blue clothes. In short, their clothes rarely clashed. "Gu Jiao, I didn't expect that our first time wearing couple outfits would be at such an occasion." Gu Jiao said seriously. "I asked first. You go first." Xiao Yulong's expression didn't change. "I'm here to meet someone and to get something." Gu Jiao said seriously. "What a coincidence." "Me too. Would anyone believe that a man who went home after school came to the teacher's office in the middle of the night without his wife's knowledge? Oh, someone would believe that a little girl from outside came to the Imperial College?" The young couple looked at each other with a serious face. They were the epitome of lying without batting an eyelid. Xiao Lulang opened his mouth. "Someone's coming." Gu Jiao suddenly raised her hand to cover his mouth and frowned vigilantly. Xiao Lulang was covered by her soft little hand and almost couldn't breathe. He patted her shoulder. Gu Jiao put her index finger on her lips. "Shoo," Xiao Lulang pointed at her hand. "It's enough that you covered my mouth. Why did you cover my nose as well? I can't breathe." "Oh, I'm sorry." Gu Jiao removed her hand and hid behind a pillar with him. Gu Jiao was thinking that if it was Zhang Sai who came, she would first knock her husband out with a palm strike and teach him a lesson. Then, she would carry her husband back. Unfortunately, it wasn't Zhang Sai who came. It was Li Sai. He was the deputy minister, and his position was slightly lower than Zhang Sai's. He was an upright official. Xiao Lulang didn't want to hurt him. Gu Jiao also didn't want to hurt anyone who wasn't on the list. The two of them held their breaths at the same time. "Sir, it's already so late. Why don't you come back tomorrow?" "How can that be? I have something urgent to report to Zhang Sai. If I wait until tomorrow, it might be too late. If something happens, will you take responsibility?" Hearing him say this, the two servants didn't dare to stop him and let him enter Minghui Hall. Minghui Hall was always guarded. Gu Jiao could enter because she was a secret agent in her previous life. She had done this kind of thing many times. But how did Xiao Lulang get in? Gu Jiao looked at him strangely. Xiao Lulang pretended not to see her little gaze. Li Sai entered the outer hall of Minghui Hall. You two go down and guard. Don't let anyone barge in. I'll wait here for Zheng Sai. Li Sai had a good reputation in the Imperial College. He was an upright and honest person. The two servants didn't suspect him, and hurriedly went to guard the main door. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao thought that he was here to find Zheng Sai. Who would have thought that as soon as the two servants left, Li Sai would start rummaging through Minghui Hall. This was the outer hall. It wasn't very big, but it wasn't small either. He rummaged furtively through the items at a very fast speed. Gu Jiao didn't know what was going on. Xiao Lulang, on the other hand, could vaguely guess what was going on. As Li Sai searched, he arrived in front of the third row of bookshelves. On the right was the pillar where Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao were hiding. The two of them held their breaths and tried their best to shrink back. Behind them was the wall, so they couldn't retreat too far. The two of them stood face to face. They were so close that their breaths intertwined. The pillar was only a foot thick. It was also at this time that Xiao Lulang realized that Gu Jiao had grown taller again. Gu Jiao had grown taller, but because he was also growing, he didn't feel much of a difference in height. But her feminine figure. Xiao Lulang tried his best not to touch anything he shouldn't. Gu Jiao also tried her best to stick herself to the wall behind her. There's nothing? It can't be. The more Li Sai searched, the closer he got to the pillar. Xiao Liulang's clothes were exposed outside the pillar. Gu Jiao stretched out her hand, intending to hug him, but Xiao Lulang was one step ahead of her. He reached out and hugged her slender waist. With a turn of his body, he pressed himself against the cold wall. He pulled her soft body into his embrace. This was the first time he had taken the initiative. Gu Jiao didn't expect him to be so aggressive. His chest was hot and full of energy. Gu Jiao. This guy not only bought black clothes behind my back, but he also trained his small chest muscles behind my back. His chest was very hard. In contrast, Gu Jiao's chest was very soft. Xiao Lulang had never experienced something like this before. His breathing stopped, and blood rushed to his head. Then Li Sai said anxiously, "That can't be. Where did he put the monthly test papers?" Seeing that Li Sai had finished searching this row of bookshelves, and was about to walk past the pillar to look for the next row of bookshelves, the sound of footsteps came from the corridor. Li Sai's hand trembled, and he carelessly stuffed the book back into the book. He hurriedly walked to the center of the hall and straightened his clothes, pretending that nothing had happened. Zheng Sai entered the hall and looked at Li Sai suspiciously. "I heard that Li Sai has an urgent matter to discuss with this official?" Li Sai pretended to be calm and said, "It's like this. There's a riding and shooting class tomorrow. I heard that a few days ago, a lot of girls fell and got injured during the riding and shooting class. I was wondering if we should temporarily cancel the riding and shooting class?" "This is the urgent matter you were talking about?" Zheng Sai frowned impatiently. "If you want to cancel it, then cancel it. In the future, you can decide on such small matters yourself. There's no need to ask me." "Yes." Li Sai cupped his hands. "Is there anything else?" Zheng Sai asked. Li Sai glanced at the unfinished bookshelves and lowered his eyes. "There's nothing else. This official will take his leave." The two of them were both Sai. Although there was a division between them, there was no need for them to call themselves subordinates. This was because he was the substitute libation. Zheng Sai was very pleased with the way he called himself a subordinate. His expression softened. Forget it. It's getting late. This official should go back. Let's go together." "Darren, please." Li Sai bowed. The two of them left Minghui Hall one after the other. If they chased after him and beat him up now, Li Sai wouldn't be able to explain himself. Gu Jiao had already guessed why Li Sai had come to look for the monthly exam papers. He also suspected that there was something fishy about Xiao Liulang's results. He wanted to help Xiao Lulang clear his name. He was a good person. She couldn't implicate him. Gu Jiao decided that she would beat up that surnamed Zheng next time. The two of them still maintained their previous distance, but their hearts seemed to be beating together. Xiao Liulang's heart was beating faster. Gu Jiao was envious of his beauty, but her heart was calm. After all, it was just looking at a beauty. She wasn't shy. That. Xiao Lulang cleared his throat. Gu Jiao understood and took a step back, increasing the distance between them. The lights in Minghui Hall had been extinguished before the two Sai left. However, a thin layer of moonlight seeped in and landed on Xiao Liulang's handsome face, reflecting an unconcealable shade of red. Xiao Lulang was a bit embarrassed. Gu Jiao glanced at a certain part of his body and said calmly, "I understand. It's just a normal physiological reaction. You don't have to be embarrassed." Xiao Lulang didn't understand what a physiological reaction was, but he understood what she meant. Thank you, but he wasn't comforted. Gu Jiao turned around and walked out. She thought of something and said, "You're not young anymore. When you go home, you should relieve yourself. Don't suffocate yourself." Xiao Lulang staggered and almost fell. Couldn't she just pretend that nothing had happened? Gu Jiao came in front of a painting, lifted it, and knocked on the wall behind the painting. The wall suddenly opened, revealing a secret compartment. There was a set of test papers inside. It was the monthly test papers that Li Sai had been looking for. Gu Jiao. "It's really here." Xiao Lulang. "How did you know?" Just now, Xiao Lulang had been leaning against the wall and could only see Gu Jiao. However, Gu Jiao could see the scene in the hall just by tilting her head. When Zheng Sai came in, the first thing he looked at was this painting. Therefore, Gu Jiao guessed that there must be something behind the painting. "You're looking for this too, right?" Gu Jiao asked. "There's something else," Xiao Lulang said as he came to the last row of bookshelves. He gently pushed the bookshelf open, revealing a secret room. Xiao Lulang went into the secret room and took out a booklet. "What's this?" Gu Jiao asked. Xiao Lulang showed her the booklet. Gu Jiao's mouth twitched when she finished reading. "You're really ruthless." "Let's go," Xiao Lulang said. The door was locked. Gu Jiao wanted to pry open the door, but Xiao Lulang pushed open another secret room and led her out of the Imperial College. Gu Jiao was stunned. There was a secret passage. How did this guy know so much about the Imperial College? Although they didn't manage to beat Zheng Sai up, they had obtained evidence that could make Zheng Sai suffer. It was a fruitful trip. When the two returned home, their families were all asleep. Before Xiao Lulang left, he carried little Jing Kong to Gu Yan's room. Only now did he bring the sleeping little Jing Kong back. He took a quick shower. When he came out to get some water, he bumped into Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was surprised. "You're so fast." "I just took a shower. How could I not be fast?" However, when he realized what Gu Jiao meant by fast, Xiao Lulang felt terrible. In the next few days, two major events happened at the Imperial College. The first was that the monthly exam papers of the Candid Nature Hall were leaked. Everyone saw Xiao Liulang's exam papers. If he was at the bottom of the list, then everyone in the Candid Nature Hall would be at the bottom. The exam papers were marked by Zheng Sai. It was obvious that he was targeting Xiao Lulang. The second thing was that the account book of Zheng Sai forming a clique with someone a few years ago was leaked in the Imperial College. There were many aristocrats in the Imperial College, and the power behind them was complicated. Some supported Zheng Sai, while others were upright and plain-spoken. The account book was quickly passed to His Majesty. His Majesty was furious. He called Zheng Sai to the Imperial study and scolded him. Imperial tutor Zhuang was also present. Zheng Sai was on Imperial tutor Zhuang's side. Naturally, Imperial tutor Zhuang wanted to protect him. However, the evidence was conclusive. It was not easy to protect him. After leaving the palace, Imperial tutor Zhuang asked in disappointment, "What happened? Didn't I tell you to destroy it long ago? Why did you still keep it?" Zheng Sai felt wronged. I probably left it out when I was destroying it. I just happened to leave this one out. Someone picked it up. Imperial tutor Zhuang said. "Then why did you only reveal it now? Think about it. Did you offend someone recently?" "No, I just what?" Zheng Sai stammered as he told Imperial tutor Zhuang about Xiao Lulang. "He's just a poor scholar from a small county. It's not like I offended him. If the other party's status was higher than his, it would be considered offending him." Xiao Lulang was just a small character. At most, it could only be called bullying. Zheng Sai's expression changed. Could it be this kid? Imperial tutor Zhuang said indifferently. A poor kid from the countryside doesn't have that kind of ability. It's most likely that someone doesn't want to see this old man sit on the position of Chancellor of the Imperial College. That's why they destroyed this old man's stage at the critical moment. Zheng Sai said in a daze. Who could it be? Imperial tutor Zhuang stood on the high steps and looked in the direction of Marquis Shuamping's estate. He sneered. Under the heavens, who would dare to oppose this old man other than that person? Digression, when you're at home, trouble falls from the sky. Marquis Gu. My daughter is about to kill me Oh? Oh Marquis Xianping. What a coincidence. My son is the same. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114556970. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 152. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. After Grand Tutor Zhuang finished reprimanding Zheng Sai, he returned to the imperial study to appease the emperor. His strategy was to never deny Zheng Sai's wrongdoings. But as the saying goes, when the water is too clear, there are no fish. Something that can be seen is always better than something that can't be seen. Moreover, this was an old debt from a few years ago. Since Zheng Sai didn't do anything similar again, it proved that he was remorseful. He begged the emperor to give him a chance to turn over a new leaf. Moreover, the Imperial College was in an awkward state where there was no one more suitable than Zheng Sai to be the chancellor. Li Sai was still young and didn't have enough experience. His methods were also inexperienced, so he couldn't control the group of stubborn old men. Sometimes people like Zheng Sai, who were both cunning and capable, could become a sharper knife that could cut through thorns for the emperor. Why else would Grand Tutor Zhuang be called capable? Normal people wouldn't dare to say this when analyzing a problem. But the emperor felt that these words were sincere. He also hoped that the imperial court of Zhao country would be clean and honest. But just as Grand Tutor Zhuang said, a knife that was too honest was too blunt and not easy to use. A knife that was too sharp would only scratch the hand a little. It was too difficult to find a knife that was sharp and wouldn't hurt oneself. If only the old chancellor was here. In the end, the emperor was appeased. He kept Zheng Sai's official position and made him the chancellor of the Imperial College in a few days. He only fined him half a year's salary as a warning to others. To outsiders, the account book was actually forged to slander Zheng Sai. Zheng Sai stood guard outside the palace. When he saw Grand Tutor Zhuang come out, he sincerely bowed. Grand Tutor Zhuang has given me a new life. In the future, I will go through water and tread on fire for Grand Tutor Zhuang. Grand Tutor Zhuang coldly said, "Don't think that you can sit back and relax just because the emperor won't pursue this matter. In the future, don't be willful and act rashly and let others have something to use against you." Zheng Sai broke out in a cold sweat. He bowed and said, "Yes, I will remember." Grand Tutor Zhuang then said, "There's also the matter of the monthly exam. You have to think of a way to cover it up." Yes. Zheng Sai returned to the Imperial College with a toothache. Xiao Lulang was sitting under the shade of a tree, tutoring Lin Qingye. When he saw Zheng Sai rushing over angrily, he glanced at him indifferently. Zheng Sai suddenly had an intuition that this was Xiao Liulang's doing. But it was strange, wasn't it? The monthly exam papers were hidden in the secret compartment behind the murals, and the account books were hidden in the secret chamber of Minghui Hall. How did Xiao Lulang have the ability to know so many of his secrets? How did he get past the guards and sneak into Minghui Hall without being discovered? Zheng Sai's heart was like a ball of fire, burning him to the point that he couldn't go up or down. Xiao Lulang casually shifted his gaze away. It was too much to look at him. Zheng Sai was infuriated. Regardless of whether it was this brat or not, he hated this brat to the core. However, he couldn't do anything to this brat. Zheng Sai. Lin Qingye discovered the other party. Xiao Lulang handed the completed exam papers to Lin Qingye, circling the areas that he hadn't written carefully enough. Then Xiao Lulang indifferently looked at Zheng Sai. Zheng Sai, are you here to apologize? Apologize for what? Zheng Sai was stunned. Xiao Lulang indifferently brushed his wide sleeves and leisurely said, my exam paper. I didn't seem to get a single question wrong. How did Zheng Sai determine my grade? Could it be that the rumors are true? That Zheng Sai is deliberately targeting me? Yes, so what if I'm targeting you? If you have the ability, bite me. Zheng Sai dared to say this 2 hours ago, but now he couldn't. Zheng Sai said with a fake smile. I clearly told them that I was in first place. I don't know how they misheard and made you first from the bottom. Oh. Xiao Lulang raised his eyebrows. Then I'll have to trouble Zheng Sai to change my grade? Zheng Sai clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked and the veins on his forehead bulged. Change it immediately. Not only did Zheng Sai have to change Xiao Lulang's grade, but he also had to publicly apologize to Xiao Lulang. This was an order that Grand Tutor Zhuang had given him. If he couldn't even endure this much humiliation, then he didn't deserve to be Grand Tutor Zhuang's weapon. Zheng Sai felt so good when he bullied Xiao Lulang that his apology would be as loud as a slap in the face. Zheng Sai tightly clenched his fists. Just you wait. One day, when I become the Chancellor of the Imperial College, you'll get it. Meng School ended earlier than the Imperial College, so little Jing Kong would usually stay in the classroom to do his homework and wait for Xiao Lulang to pick him up. Today the last class in Candid Classroom was self-study, so he didn't have to go. Xiao Lulang went to the Meng School to pick up little Jing Kong. You're skipping class again. Little Jing Kong looked at him with his hands on his hips. I don't have class, Xiao Lulang said. Little Jing Kong crossed his arms and looked serious. Isn't self-study a class? Xiao Lulang. Are you the parent or am I the parent? Let's go. Xiao Lulang grabbed his school bag and asked him to carry it. Little Jing Kong didn't understand the adult's confusing behavior, but he really wanted to Jiao Jiao, so he carried the school bag that Jiao Jiao made for him and followed his bad brother-in-law out of the Imperial College. People came and went on the streets of Chang'an. Today, the young man who sold candied haws changed his location and happened to be not far from where they lived. Xiao Lulang looked at the shiny candied haws nearby and asked little Jing Kong, do you want to eat candied haws? Little Jing Kong. Yes. Xiao Lulang. I'm not buying it for you. Little Jing Kong. This was the second type of confusing behavior that little Jing Kong didn't understand. But he wasn't easy to bully. He stopped, put his hands on his hips and said fiercely, I'm going to increase your rent. Xiao Lulang. You know how to increase rent. Little Jing Kong didn't get to eat his candied haws in the end because his bad brother-in-law dilly-dallied, and the last one was sold out. Little Jing Kong went crazy. I'm really annoyed. It's really not easy to bring an adult out. Little Jing Kong went home slowly with a gloomy face. When he was about to turn into Jade Water Alley, a trembling voice suddenly came from the front. Hing? The voice was a little old, and it sounded as if it was trembling from the soul. Xiao Liulang's body suddenly froze. He didn't look up. He held his walking stick with one hand and grabbed little Jing Kong's hand with the other hand, and quickly dragged him into Jade Water Alley. I don't want you to hold my hand. I'll walk by myself. It was little Jing Kong's resentful voice. Hung. The old man chased after him, but the ground was slippery, and he almost fell. Fortunately, Lu Quan, who was standing at the side, held him up in time. Master, be careful. It's snowing in the capital these days, and the roads are frozen. Don't fall. The old man was so excited that his whole body was trembling. Did you see it just now? See who? Lu Quan asked. Aheng. The old man said. Young Master Aheng? Young Chancellor? Master, are your eyes playing tricks on you? Young Chancellor has already passed away. Lu Quan was the old man's servant. Although he had been with the old man for many years, he had always been helping the old man to take care of the family affairs. He had never been to the Imperial College, and he had never seen the rumored young Chancellor. Aheng. The old man looked at the empty Jadewater alley and felt disappointed. Lu Quan said sadly, Master, maybe it's just someone who looks similar. The old man shook his head. If it really was a stranger, then when he heard someone calling him, he would definitely raise his head to take a look. It definitely would not be the reaction he had just now. He clearly recognized his own voice. He was caught off guard, so he did not have time to hide. In order to not let the old man notice his abnormality, he ran away. It's Aheng. It's him. The old man was unable to calm down for a long time. He tried his best to recall. He seemed to be wearing the uniform of the Imperial College. Lu Quan said, That's even more impossible, right? How did the young Chancellor become the Imperial College's supervisor? He was the young Chancellor personally conferred by His Majesty. The old man also felt that it was strange, but no matter how strange it was, seeing was believing. Anyway, go and ask around. Also, I saw him using a crutch. His leg seems to be injured. Yes, Master. Lu Quan helplessly agreed. There were many students in the Imperial College. It was not easy to find out about a supervisor, but it was not difficult to find out about a crippled supervisor. Especially because of the matter with Zhang Sai, Xiao Luleng became famous in the Imperial College. In just half a day, Lu Quan was able to find out everything about Xiao Luleng. Lu Quan. Speaking of which, this supervisor is quite fated with us. He studied at Tianxiang Academy. He lives in our young benefactor's village. The old man. What's his name? Lu Quan. Xiao Luleng. The old man was shocked. It's him? Of course the old man had heard of this name. When he was staying at Tianxiang Academy, Headmaster Li had called Xiao Luleng to Zhongzheng Hall more than once. He had also read Xiao Liulong's essays. He felt that this child was too vicious and was not suitable to be taken in as a disciple. He had always been behind the screen and did not specially come out to examine the other party's appearance. If he had come out to take a look, would he have discovered that he was Aheng long ago? He did not recognize his voice because the 17-year-old youth had already changed his voice. But what about his handwriting and writing style? That young man who used to be as gentle as jade seemed to have turned into a cold and ruthless person overnight. He even changed his identity. What exactly did his Aheng go through? After little Jing Kong was dragged home by his brother-in-law, he silently rated this as the third confusing behavior of an adult. Why did you run away? He looked up and asked. I didn't run away. I just walked faster, Xiao Luleng said without changing his expression. Little Jing Kong asked. Why did you suddenly walk faster? Don't you know that you will fall if you walk faster? The two of us are the ones who fall the most easily in the family. How fast could he walk? Did he not know? Little Jing Kong said again. That grandpa just now called you Aheng. Which Heng is that? Hung as in tyrannical? Or hung as in frowning coldly? Xiao Luleng said. These two are the same hung. Also you heard wrong. He did not call me Aheng. Oh. Little Jing Kong was disappointed. He did not get it. Xiao Luleng changed the topic. Stop nagging. Today we will learn Chen language. Have you finished the homework that I gave you yesterday? Ever since little Jing Kong scored low in the entrance exam, he started to cram in foreign languages after school every day. Little Jing Kong's attention was successfully diverted. He took out his homework from his bag. Of course I finished it. Do you think I am like you? You will only move if someone pokes you. If I don't spur you, you will still be last in the exam. Xiao Luleng. He could not get over the fact that he was last in the exam, right? Xiao Luleng checked his homework. There were no mistakes. They were both teaching, but it had to be said that teaching little Jing Kong was much easier than teaching Lin Qingya. Aheng. Little Jing Kong suddenly imitated those old ladies outside. He raised his little orchid fingers and called Xiao Lulang with a tone. Xiao Lulang trembled from head to toe. He was so shocked that he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. He should go and teach Lin Qingye. After the old man saw Xiao Lulang with his own eyes, he could not calm down for a long time. His intuition told him that he was his Aheng, but all the information about Xiao Lulang showed that he was a complete stranger. In order to find out the truth, the old man decided to visit him personally. He remembered that the two disappeared in Baishui Alley that day. As for the house inside, he had to go to each house to find it. He found a day when the Imperial College was off. Qinghe Academy was also off today. But the 4 men in the house were not idle. They all went to buy supplies for the new year. Therefore, when the old man came to their house, it was empty. The door was not closed. This door was left open by the old lady for her mahjong friends. "Excuse me, is Xiao Lulang here?" the old man asked politely. No one answered. The old man guessed that someone was behind him. After thinking for a while, he walked in. "I'm looking for Xiao Lulang. Is he at home?" The old lady was sitting in the backyard and eating melon seeds. Hearing the noise, she thought that her mahjong friend had come and looked back. "Huh? An old man? A new mahjong friend? Looking for a game?" The old man also saw the old lady clearly. His reaction was much better than the old lady's. "Empress Dowager?" His legs went soft and he knelt down. "Old lady. That's not necessary. Digression. Do you still have monthly tickets? Can you vote for Jiao Jiao? Bow and thank you." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/8964/2_89642_1145296/11452960. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 153. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. "Are you here to play cards?" the old lady asked. The old man was stunned. Play cards?" The old lady cracked the melon seeds and said, "We're not playing leaf cards today. Pai Gao, starting at 50 copper coins." What was the Empress Dowager saying? What leaf cards? What Pai Gao? The old man looked at the Empress Dowager and slowly stood up from the ground. He found that although the person in front of him looked like the Empress Dowager, her clothes and temperament were not like the Empress Dowager. "What are you looking at?" the old lady asked impatiently. "You don't recognize me?" The old man pointed at himself and asked. After hearing what he said, the old lady really started to look at him carefully. He looked like a human. And he looked a bit familiar. Where have I seen him? The old lady couldn't remember the past. She would occasionally recall some, but they were all very fragmented fragments. However, this old man gave her an unusual feeling. Wasn't he unusual? When the old chancellor was an official in the imperial court, he often opposed the Empress Dowager. He was a conservative and firmly opposed the imperial harem's involvement in politics, especially women's participation in politics. When the former emperor was still alive, the old chancellor had sent many memorials to persuade the former emperor to abolish the empress. In the memorials, he called the virtuous empress a demon. She messed up the imperial harem, and her relatives interfered in politics. She was also ruthless and disregarded human life. The virtuous empress was once banished to the cold palace by the former emperor, because of the old chancellor. Although she walked out of the cold palace in less than half a year with her excellent skills, she lost half a year's worth of money, and also lost a lot of her previous savings. Cutting off her money was like killing her parents. After that, The virtuous empress saw the old chancellor as a thorn in her side. The old chancellor was exiled to the frontier fortress for 5 years and suffered a lot. He was dried up and aged more than 10 years, which was the work of the virtuous empress. The two of them fought until the former emperor passed away. The virtuous empress killed the crown prince and supported the son of concubine Jing to ascend the throne. She became the empress dowager with power. The two of them had a temporary winner. The reason why it was temporary was because the old chancellor controlled the imperial college, and the imperial college gathered the most talented youths in the entire Zhao country. To exaggerate, the old chancellor controlled the future of Zhao country. Empress Dowager Zhuang deliberately wanted to seize the power of the imperial college. At that time, and Junwang was about to return to the country. Empress Dowager Zhuang proposed to the emperor that the position of young chancellor could be added to the imperial college. Although His Majesty agreed, the one who was conferred the title of young chancellor was not Empress Dowager Zhuang's grandnephew, but the young Marquis of Zhaodu. This young Marquis was the old chancellor's disciple. Empress Dowager Zhuang had 10,000 unspeakable horses galloping through her heart. The old chancellor smiled crookedly. Old chancellor seemed to have won this round. But not long after, on New Year's Eve, the imperial college suddenly caught fire, and the young Marquis of Zhaodu was burned alive. Ever since the old man resigned, he had not thought about the past for a long time. Now that he saw the Empress Dowager, his thoughts were pulled back to the bloody court. Puzzled, the old lady said, "Why aren't you saying anything? Why are you looking at me with such a complicated gaze? Also, after seeing you, my mood seems to have become a little complicated." It was the kind of complicated that couldn't be described. It was as if they were old enemies and she couldn't wait to find a knife to chop him. Wait. Chop him with a knife? The old lady looked at the old man suspiciously. They knew each other. This could be confirmed from his gaze and his words. He was very afraid of her. He didn't dare to look into her eyes. It seemed that he was a little guilty. He even knelt down in front of her. How sorry was he to her? "I know who you are." The old lady's mind flashed and she threw the melon seeds on the table. "Are you the heartless man who abandoned me that year and came back to find me?" The old man. Gu Jiao and Gu Yin came back first. When they walked through the hall, they found that there was one more person in the backyard. Gu Jiao felt that she looked familiar, mainly because there was no big shoe print on her face, so she didn't recognize her immediately. "Great-aunt." Gu Jiao looked at her inquiringly. The old lady glared at a certain heartless man who was shivering inside. "Your great-uncle." Gu Jiao, Gu Shaoshan, Xiao Lulang, Gu Yan, and little Jing Kong entered the house after them. They were carrying bags of various sizes, and there was a horse carriage carrying New Year goods behind them. They unloaded the New Year goods from the horse carriage together with the coachman. Xiao Lulang carried a pot of sesame oil and walked in. Just like Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshan, he was stunned when he walked through the hall. The old lady, Gu Jiao, Gu Shaoshan, and the old man who wasn't shivering as much but still looked pale were sitting in the courtyard. They had no choice. They were terrified because they had been cuckolded by the late emperor. "Son-in-law," Gu Jiao introduced. "Xiao Lulang, I haven't seen you for a while and you picked up another son-in-law?" Gu Jiao felt wronged. "I didn't pick him up this time." Xiao Lulang looked at the old man with a complicated expression. At this moment, the old man's mind was blank. He didn't even remember that he had come to recognize Xiao Lulang. He only madly apologized to the former emperor in his heart. The relationship between the Empress Dowager and I is absolutely pure. The old lady's anger had been suppressed. She asked lightly, "Okay, let's be frank. Do we have a child?" The old man slipped from the chair and almost fell to the ground. He sat up with the help of the chair and said with a pale face, No. The old lady nodded. "I think so too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come all the way to Lulang." Xiao Lulang looked at the old man. The old man wiped his cold sweat. He had fought with Empress Dowager Zhuang for a lifetime. Today was the most difficult time. It could be said that he had no power to fight back. Empress Dowager Zhuang casually said, "When you were young, you abandoned me. Now that you are old, you want my grandnephew to raise you. There is no way. Get lost." The old man was relieved. For the first time, he felt that the word, get lost, was so pleasant to hear. The old man left the courtyard. He still had a feeling that everything was not real. He wanted to understand what was going on. He didn't leave and just waited by the door. Xiao Lulang didn't disappoint him. Not long after, he came out. The two were not surprised to see each other. It was as if they had already calculated that one would not leave, and the other would not come out. Xiao Lulang was no longer as panicked as he was last time at the alley. The old man had mixed feelings. The one inside is the Empress Dowager, right? Why are you with the Empress Dowager? You don't have to admit that you are Aheng, but you can't deny that she is the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager is not dead. Xiao Lulang was silent. The old man sadly asked, why is it like this? What happened to you and the Empress Dowager? The Empress Dowager lost her memories, but you didn't. Tell me. Xiao Lulang remained silent. The old man painfully closed his eyes. Fine, if you don't want to say, I won't force you. I will come see you another day. Today's matter. I will keep it a secret for you. Xiao Lulang bowed and turned around to enter the courtyard. Your leg. The old man's worried gaze fell on his right leg. Xiao Lulang stopped in his tracks. It's not a problem. This was the only thing he said to himself. The old man felt that he had chased him out just to say these 3 words. He didn't want him to worry about him. The old man's heart was filled with sorrow. Xiao Lulang entered the courtyard, and the old man returned to the carriage. In truth, today's gain was not just seeing the Empress Dowager. He also saw his little benefactor. How could he have not expected that she and Aheng? No, it should be Lulang now. She and Lulang were actually husband and wife. What sort of fate was this? In the courtyard, the whole family uniformly looked at the old lady. Great-aunt, granduncle really passed away. Aren't you sad? Little Jing Kong asked. In this family, there were not many people who knew that the old lady was not Xiao Liulang's great-aunt, but Gu Xiaoshan was one of them. When the old lady fainted in front of Gu Jiao in Xiao Liulang's house, Gu Xiaoshan was also present. After that, Gu Yan, Little Jing Kong, Yao Shi, and the others all thought that the old lady was really Xiao Liulang's great-aunt and traveled thousands of miles to seek refuge with him. Therefore, when the young master appeared, Little Jing Kong and the others believed him without any doubt. Gu Xiaoshan also believed him. Because they had been together for so long, he had forgotten that his great-aunt was picked up from the streets. The old lady cracked a melon seed. Why would I be sad? I'm only at peace when he's not here. Who wants to spend the rest of their lives with an old man? Isn't it better to play cards every day? Little Jing Kong said. Oh. When Gu Jiao was cooking in the kitchen, Little Jing Kong sneaked in and tugged at Gu Jiao's clothes, saying, Jiao Jiao, I have something to tell you. What's the matter? Gu Jiao asked. Little Jing Kong tilted his head and looked at her. Brother-in-law has a nickname, Hung. It means hung as in tyrannical. Although brother-in-law did not admit it, he had already decided in his heart that it was hung as in tyrannical. Gu Jiao looked at him in amusement. Really? How did you know? Little Jing Kong said. I heard it from granduncle. I saw him that day. Gu Jiao said. Oh. Little Jing Kong sighed. Brother-in-law and I came back from school. We were at the entrance of the alley. Granduncle called brother-in-law a hung, but brother-in-law ignored him and ran away with me. After that, I asked brother-in-law, but brother-in-law insisted that granduncle mistook him for someone else. Brother-in-law is really unfilial. Even if he doesn't want to acknowledge brother-in-law, he shouldn't treat him like that. Teacher Jiang taught us to respect the old and love the young. Little Jing Kong felt that something was wrong that day. Today, when granduncle came to visit, he was even more certain of his conjecture. Bad brother-in-law was really up to something that day. Bad brother-in-law was an unfilial grandson. He could not do that in the future. After complaining, Little Jing Kong deeply felt the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. He went to the study and picked up the foreign language book that he despised. Bad brother-in-law was unreliable and tiring. From today onwards, he had to work harder so that he could raise his family well in the future. In the kitchen, Gu Jiao recalled Little Jing Kong's words. Met him. He even called him by his nickname? That meant that the person knew Xiao Lulang. Judging from Xiao Liulang's reaction, it was very likely that Xiao Lulang knew him too. According to Gu Jiao's observation of that person, he obviously knew old madam as well. As for whether they were a real couple, it was hard to say. Old madam's memory was messed up, so it was possible that she mistook him for someone else. That was not the main point. The main point was that the person knew Xiao Lulang and old madam. Xiao Lulang also knew him. Then, did Xiao Lulang also know old madam? When he saved old madam and took her in without any complaints, it was not because of his sudden kindness. Was it because they were old acquaintances? Prince and also knew old madam. Gu Jiao used the firewood to write a few names on the ashes. Old madam, Prince in Xiao Lulang, Marquis Xuanping's mansion Ahung. After the old man returned to the carriage, he could not calm down for a long time. Empress Dowager Zhuang did not get along with Marquis Xuanping's mansion, and he did not get along with her. Xiao Lulang was both a member of Marquis Xuanping's mansion and his student. The old man did not feel at ease leaving Xiao Lulang by the side of the country-wrecking demon empress. No, I have to keep an eye on her. The old man returned to the capital this time, because a close friend of many years was critically ill, and did not have long to live. He came to see him one last time. When he saw him, he planned to continue living in seclusion. But now he changed his mind. He secretly used the connections that he had not used for many years, and rented a small house in Jade Water Alley. Coincidentally, it was right next to Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao. The old man quickly moved into the room. He did not have many servants, only Lu Quan and a temporarily hired coachman. The first day he moved in, he built a ladder and stood on the wall to secretly observe the actions of the country-wrecking demon empress. Old madam had already discovered him. This annoying old man. He didn't want her when she was young, but now that he was old, he wanted her back? Dream on. Old madam resisted the urge to hack him to death, and returned to her room to sleep. But she lay on the bed and could not fall asleep. The more she thought about it, the more she could not swallow this anger. She went to the kitchen, took a kitchen knife, and angrily went next door. The old man stared for a while and felt sleepy, so he also returned to his room to sleep. The difference was that he fell asleep. But halfway through his sleep, he felt a chill on his neck and instantly woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw old madam pointing a kitchen knife at him. He was shocked. "What are you doing?" Old madam put the kitchen knife on his neck and said in a mighty and domineering manner, "Hand over your secret stash." Old Chancellor who was robbed for no reason. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114526095. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 154. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that can't be found online can be found here. Early in the morning, Gu Jiao went to the clinic. There were a few patients in the morning, but there wasn't much business in the afternoon. Gu Jiao rested in her small courtyard. Separated from her by a wall was the small garden of the girls' school. There was a pavilion in the small garden. Usually no one would come here, but now there was a girl playing a song there. Her playing was somewhat unsatisfactory. Not only was it intermittent, but the notes were also wrong. Gu Jiao was lying on a rattan chair with her eyes closed. As a result, she was tortured by the girl's deadly music. She opened the door and walked out. Looking in the direction of the courtyard wall, she said, "Wrong." The girl clearly didn't expect that someone would hear her playing. She was so scared that she scratched her fingertips, making an ear-piercing sound. Gu Jiao felt her hair stand on end. Who is it? The girl asked. She looked around but didn't find anyone nearby. Your music isn't accurate, Gu Jiao said. This time, the girl could tell that it was the person behind the courtyard wall who was speaking. She was stunned and asked, Is it not accurate? I just bought a guqin. The quality of this guqin wasn't very good. Ordinary daughters of aristocratic families wouldn't buy this kind of inferior guqin. Gu Jiao guessed that the other person's status wasn't high. Otherwise, they wouldn't be secretly hiding in a corner to practice. Bring it here, Gu Jiao said. How do I bring it? The girl asked. Gu Jiao looked at the wall that was taller than a person. She dispelled the urge to jump over and scare the other person to death. She said indifferently, Can you find the guqin? After a while, the other person said, Found it. Gu Jiao said, I said you play it. Hook the 3 strings. The girl was obviously a novice. The earliest guqin only had 5 strings. Later, King Wen added 1 string, and King Wu added 1 string. Thus it became 7 strings, and was also called a 7-string guqin. The 7 strings also had their own names, Gong, Shang, Jiao, Zheng, Yu, Wen, and Wu. Gu Jiao said, the 3rd string the horn string. Oh. The girl raised her finger and hooked it. Gu Jiao said, It's too high. Loosen the zither. After the girl finished loosening the zither, she plucked the strings again. How about this? Gu Jiao said, It's too loose. The pitch is too low. Tighten it up a little. Oh. The girl carefully turned the zither. This time it was finally accurate. After that, she adjusted the other 6 strings one by one under Gu Jiao's guidance. She played the song she learned in class and exclaimed happily, It's really much better. Gu Jiao's face darkened. You call this pleasant? Do you have some misunderstanding about what it means? Miss, thank you. I was originally discouraged and planned to give up after a bit of practice, but now I've changed my mind. I won't be going anywhere this afternoon. I'll just practice here. Gu Jiao. Is it too late for me to regret now? After being tortured by the deadly zither music next door for an entire afternoon, Gu Jiao's face was completely dark when she came out. In the brothel of the girls' school, Gu Jinyu had just finished practicing. As long as she practiced, there would be a large group of people coming to admire her. It would not be an exaggeration to say that her zither music would linger for 3 days. County Princess Hui, how can you play so well? The teacher only taught you this morning, but you can already master it in the afternoon. Did you put in a lot of effort to practice? Yes. County Princess Hui, please share your experience with us. The 2 daughters of the aristocratic families looked at Gu Jinyu enviously. Gu Jinyu hugged the lunar shadow Fushi zither in her hands and smiled slightly. No need to be so polite. Just call me by my name. Actually, I haven't practiced for a long time. It's nice that you don't mind. The daughter said, Heavens, you haven't practiced for a long time? If you practice for a while, how good would you be? The daughter said, Miss Gu, is the zither in your hands the lunar shadow Fushi zither? The top zither player in the state of Chun, lunar shadow, made it personally. It's the only one in the 6 nations. Everyone was so envious that they almost drooled. The daughter said, Miss Gu, can you lend it to us to admire? Of course. Gu Jinyu gave the zither in her hands to them. Everyone crowded around to admire the legendary lunar shadow Fushi zither. It was indeed the top zither in the 6 nations. The surface, strings, emblem, head and tail were all close to perfection. Why was it close to perfection? Because only the real Fushi zither was perfect. But the Fushi zither was long gone, so lunar shadow naturally became the top zither in the 6 nations. In the girls' school, there were 2 people who were the most popular. One was the daughter of the Marquis, Gu Jinyu, and the other was the granddaughter of Grand Tutor Zhuang, Zhuang Yueshi. Zhuang Yueshi's poetry was more outstanding, while Gu Jinyu's zither skills were more outstanding. The 2 of them were on par. But in terms of popularity, Zhuang Yueshi, who was arrogant and disdained to make friends with others, could not be compared to the approachable Gu Jinyu. At this moment, Zhuang Yueshi came out from another zither room with a zither in her hands. Behind her was Zhuang Mengdai, who was also carrying a zither. Zhuang Mengdai was playing the zither to make up the numbers. She had been dozing off ever since she entered the zither room. She only woke up when it was over. The two of them passed by Gu Jinyu's zither room and saw her surrounded by a group of daughters asking for advice. Zhuang Mengdai rolled her eyes in disdain. Tisk, what's so great about her? She's just a wild girl from the countryside. She's puffing herself up at her own cost. She stole someone else's identity and is still so smug. She really thinks she's the real daughter. Zhuang Yueshi glanced at her idiotic sister. How much better can you be than her? Zhuang Mingdia's mouth twitched. How can you talk about your own sister like that? No matter how bad I am, I'm still father's biological daughter. I'm of noble birth. I'm the legitimate daughter of an aristocratic family. Zhuang Yueshi said coldly. The legitimate daughter of an aristocratic family can't even recite a few poems. Don't tell others that you're the daughter of the Zhuang family. The Zhuang family can't afford to lose face like this. You. Zhuang Mengdai was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Zhuang Yueshi didn't like Gu Jinyu and she didn't like Zhuang Mengdai either. She always felt embarrassed to have such an idiotic sister. The two sisters went downstairs. Zhuang Mengdai was originally angered to death by her sister. However, when she saw Prince N's carriage by the street, all her worries disappeared. Big brother. She threw the guqin to the servant and ran towards Royal Prince, and Prince N got down from the carriage. It snowed last night. The streets and eaves were all white. However, he stood in the middle of the snow. It was as if the snow couldn't take away his brilliance. Zhuang Yueshi's face was also filled with joy. Zhuang Mengdai held Prince N's arm. Brother, why are you here? Prince N said gently. I was passing by so I came to see you. Have you finished your lessons today? Yes. Zhuang Yueshi walked over and said. She didn't give the zither to the servant. Prince N saw that she was tired and reached out his hand. Give it to me. Zhuang Yueshi smiled and gave the zither to her brother. Prince N pulled his arm out of Zhuang Mingdia's hand because he wanted to take the zither. Zhuang Yueshi was very satisfied with this. After Prince N took the zither, he didn't rush to bring his two sisters into the carriage. Instead, he looked around as if he was waiting for someone. Zhuang Yueshi asked, Brother, who are you looking for? Prince N said calmly, I heard that Miss Gu also came to the girls' school. Zhuang Mengdai immediately pursed her lips. You're talking about that Gu Jinyu? I hate her to death. Brother, why do you care about her? Zhuang Yueshi looked at Prince N suspiciously. Prince N looked at Zhuang Mengdai and smiled. Isn't she your friend? I was just asking. Zhuang Mengdai sneered. I don't have a friend like her. She's the only one from the Gu family. Prince N asked. Zhuang Mengdai snorted. Who else? How could that girl who grew up in the countryside get the admission card? Zhuang Yueshi asked. How did you get it? Zhuang Mengdai choked. Could this elder sister not always tear down her stage? Prince N was deep in thought. Could it be that she sold the admission card he gave her to Zhuang Mengdai? What Prince N didn't know was that his admission card was sold to Du Xiaoyan by Gu Jiao. Zhuang Mingdia's admission card was obtained by Marquis Gu from Consort Shu. On the second floor of the brothel, Gu Jinyu pushed open the door and saw Prince N, who came to pick up his two sisters from school. Gu Jinyu's heart was beating wildly. After not seeing him for a long time, Prince N seemed to be more handsome, and his aura was more powerful. Who was he looking left and right for? Herself? Gu Jinyu's heart beat faster. She vaguely heard Zhuang Mengdai say, You mean that Gu Jinyu? I hate her so much. Why does brother care about her? Gu Jinyu's breathing was messed up. Prince N was concerned about her. He didn't come to pick up his sisters. He specially came to see her. Gu Jinyu hurriedly put away the zither and went to the tea room to reapply some rouge. She also fixed the hairpin on her head before going downstairs to see Prince N. Unexpectedly, Prince N was already gone. It turned out that Zhuang Mengdai accidentally said, That girl is working as a medicine boy at the clinic next door. I saw her that day. So Prince N went to the clinic. But Prince N didn't go there. Gu Jiao couldn't stand the zither music behind the courtyard wall and got off work early. At this time, the four men in the family hadn't finished school yet. Gu Jiao went to the kitchen to stew soup. Halfway through, Nanny Fong came. Eldest miss, something strange is growing on Madame's body. Quickly go and take a look. Gu Jiao lowered the fire in the stove to let the soup in the pot stay warm. She sat in the carriage with Nanny Fong and went to the Marquis's estate. When Madame Yao saw Gu Jiao, she reprimanded Nanny Fong. I said I'm fine. Don't look for Jiao Jiao for everything. It's always good to be careful. Gu Jiao walked forward and looked at Madame Yao. It's eczema. It's fine. Just apply some medicine and it'll be fine. Madame Yao looked at Nanny Fong. I said it's fine, right? Look at you making a fuss over nothing. Nanny Fong heaved a long sigh of relief. Isn't it because once bitten, twice shy? Ever since concubine Ling lost her power, she became restless. She frequently went to Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin's courtyard to make a good impression in front of the two brothers. Now the two of them wanted to drive Madame Yao out of the estate. She didn't do it herself and wanted to use others to do it. Nanny Fong had been guarding against concubine Ling, but she was afraid that she couldn't guard against her. Gu Jiao took out a box of eczema ointment from the small medicine box and gave it to Madame Yao. If there are any problems in the future, tell me immediately. It was better to be safe than sorry. She didn't care about making a few more trips. Nanny Fong sent Gu Jiao to the carriage. Gu Jiao returned to Chishui Alley. The old lady asked, Is your mother okay? Gu Jiao said she's fine. However, what even Gu Jiao didn't expect was that Madame Yao was fine, but her two younger brothers in the family had an accident. The first one to show symptoms was little Jing Kong. During dinner, little Jing Kong didn't have a good appetite. Gu Jiao touched him. He didn't have a fever, so he went to bed early. In the middle of the night, he suddenly shook Xiao Luleng awake. Xiao Luleng looked at him strangely. What's wrong? He sat on the bed and said with a serious face, I'm so itchy. Xiao Luleng lit the oil lamp and lifted his clothes to take a look. He found that there were several transparent blisters on his arms and stomach. Xiao Luleng covered him with the quilt and called Gu Jiao over. After Gu Jiao saw it, she diagnosed it on the spot, chickenpox. Xiao Luleng frowned. You mean chickenpox? Gu Jiao nodded. Well, you can say that. Little Jing Kong was in good health. He hadn't gotten sick since he left the mountain. Who would have thought that he would get chickenpox? Although chickenpox wasn't as terrible as smallpox, it wasn't that difficult to treat. Chickenpox is contagious. Did you get chickenpox when you were a child? Gu Jiao asked Xiao Luleng. Yes. Xiao Luleng said. He also got chickenpox when he was about the same age as little Jing Kong. What about you? Xiao Luleng looked at Gu Jiao. I think I got chickenpox before. Gu Jiao searched the original owner's memory in her mind. She got chickenpox before Gu Sanlang and his wife passed away. Because she was well taken care of, she finally recovered. Xiaoshan didn't get chickenpox before, she said. Chickenpox was contagious. It was better not to come into contact with little Jing Kong, if she didn't get chickenpox before. Did Grandaunt get chickenpox before? She asked Xiao Luleng. This question was a bit interesting. The old lady was just a leprosy patient who was casually rescued. She lost her memory and couldn't remember the past. How could Xiao Luleng know if she had chickenpox before? Unless she was already certain that Xiao Luleng had known her for a long time. Xiao Luleng didn't ask if she knew anything, nor did he deliberately change the topic. He just said calmly, I don't know. He really didn't know. Gu Jiao thought about it. It was normal. For example, she didn't know what illness old Master Gu had in the past. She said, oh, then to be on the safe side, it's better to ask Grandaunt to be careful. The chickenpox this time came fiercely. The next morning, Gu Xiaoshan and Gu Yan also got chickenpox. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhpqg.com/89642_896422826/114498866. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 155. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Great, there were 6 people in the house, and 3 of them fell ill. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang didn't dare to let the old lady continue to stay at home. Little Jing Kong's acne was similar to a serious cold, but the old lady's acne could kill her. Let the old lady stay next door for a few days? Gu Jiao said to Xiao Lulang. Gu Jiao already knew that the old man next door was the old man she had treated on the mountain before, mainly because she recognized Lu Quan. Lu Quan had given her and Gu Xiaoshan a gift on the first day of the new year, a warm jade pendant. Gu Jingyu even mistook that jade pendant for her own, causing a big misunderstanding. No matter if he was the old lady's husband or not, he was someone worthy of trust. Xiao Lulang opened his mouth. Actually, they were old enemies, the kind that would fight to the death. Was it really okay to stay next door? Wouldn't they strangle each other to death if they couldn't control themselves? When the old lady heard that she was going to stay with her husband, she felt a little disgusted, but when she thought that the 3 little guys all had acne, she still chose the dog head to save her life. When the old lady appeared in front of him, the old chancellor was watering the flowers. He was so scared that he dropped the kettle. I don't have any money left. The old lady stared at him with a death stare, and silently took the luggage into the house. The old chancellor was stunned. This is my house. The old lady threw his things out and said expressionlessly, from now on it's not. The old chancellor gritted his teeth. He had to endure. Gu Xiaoshan and little Jing Kong didn't have any headache or fever for a year. But this time, they had acne and their symptoms were even worse than Gu Yan's. Both of them had a high fever of 40 degrees, which didn't go down even after taking the antipyretic. Gu Jiao gave the 2 of them some fluids. Gu Yan sat opposite the 2 of them, and watched with a smug expression as the 2 of them were injected with needles. 1 adult and 1 child sat on the chair, and got in 4 drip. How much they wanted to beat up Gu Yan. When Xiao Lulang entered the room, he saw this scene. This strange treatment method was unique in the 6 nations and the universe. Now, the secrets between the 2 of them could no longer be hidden. His background and her medical skills were slowly coming to the surface. It was just that he didn't want to talk about his background, so he naturally didn't have the right to ask about her medical skills. Gu Jiao was the same. They were all smart people. Is there anything I can help you with? Xiao Lulang asked. Gu Jiao said, there's no hot water. I'll go cook it. Xiao Lulang turned around and went to the kitchen. Gu Jiao stayed behind to observe the 3 of them. Little Jing Kong was the youngest, so he was the most receptive to new things. He quickly got used to the needles on the back of his hand. Gu Xiaoshan was so scared that his whole body trembled. It's okay. Gu Jiao comforted him softly. After a while, little Jing Kong started to feel sleepy. Gu Jiao carried him over and placed him on her lap. She sat beside Gu Xiaoshan and quietly accompanied them. Gu Jiao thought that little Jing Kong's symptoms would be the least severe since he was the youngest. However, at night, little Jing Kong's hands and feet started to feel cold. Gu Jiao fetched him some hot water to soak his feet. The little guy couldn't even sit still. Hold him, Xiao Lulang said. Gu Jiao sat on the chair and held little Jing Kong. Xiao Lulang squatted on the floor and held a wooden basin for him to soak his feet. This action was tiring for a normal person, let alone him. Gu Jiao said, let me do it. No need. Xiao Liulang's forehead was sweating. He said calmly, he doesn't want me to hold him. Little Jing Kong was sleepy. How could he know who was holding him? Gu Jiao glanced at him. She raised her hand and wiped the sweat on his forehead with her sleeve. After soaking his feet, little Jing Kong was sweating all over. His fever subsided a little, and his hands and feet were not so cold anymore. To be honest, Gu Jiao didn't have much contact with little patients in her previous life. She didn't dare to let her guard down for a while. "I'll go check on Xiaoshan and Gu Yan," Xiao Lulang said and took the used hot water out. Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan also had a high fever, but it was not as serious as little Jing Kong's. In the middle of the night, little Jing Kong suddenly sat up. He opened his dark eyes and blinked. No one knew what he was looking at. Gu Jiao asked, "What's the matter?" "Jiao Jiao," he said. "I'm here." Gu Jiao held him in her arms and lay down. Little Jing Kong closed his eyes. After a while he sat up again. His eyes were wide open. "Bad brother-in-law," he said. "He's here too." Gu Jiao called Xiao Lulang in. "Go to sleep. Brother-in-law is here too." Little Jing Kong looked at Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang. He fell asleep peacefully. However, he got up again after a while. He was muddle-headed from the fever. Although his eyes were wide open and bright, he looked like he was drunk. He started to recite the poems of the Tang dynasty, one after another. Then he started to speak the language of the Chun nation. He talked a lot and looked very serious. After he finished speaking the language of the Chun nation, he started to speak the language of the Liang nation. Xiao Lulang just mentioned some sentences casually and did not pay attention to the key points. He thought that little Jing Kong had not learned them. Then he said a few sentences in the language of the Jin nation. Xiao Lulang had not taught him the language of the Yan nation and the Turkic nation, so little Jing Kong did not speak them. Xiao Lulang had a few words with him out of curiosity. Usually, Xiao Lulang would test him like this. He had not learned for a long time, so he always had to think before he could answer. Sometimes he would even answer vaguely. After all, he had learned a lot of languages. But tonight, Xiao Lulang seamlessly changed the language of the 4 countries. He did not get a single sentence wrong. It was quite confusing. In the end, he even recited the Buddhist scriptures in Sanskrit. Not only that, he also wanted to wear his little monk robe and knock on his small wooden fish. Gu Jiao went to find his things. 15 minutes later, the two of them looked at little Jing Kong, who was sitting on the bed and seriously knocking on the small wooden fish, twirling the small Buddhist prayer beads, and reciting the Buddhist scriptures. For a moment, they were speechless. This was not the scariest thing. Little Jing Kong knocked on the wooden fish. As he knocked on the wooden fish, his head started to itch. He raised his hand and grabbed a handful of hair. He was instantly stunned. "Master, why is my hair growing? I can't be a monk anymore. Shave my hair. I want to shave it." He cried very fiercely. It was hard to coax him. Therefore, Gu Jiao had to ask his temporary master, Xiao Lulang, to bring a razor over and shave his hair that had been growing for more than half a year. The next day, little Jing Kong woke up and did not remember what he had done at night. He did not realize that his hair was gone. Gu Yan was quite smug yesterday because he did not need an injection. But today he could not be smug. He was even more listless than little Jing Kong. He also coughed uncontrollably and vomited all the medicine that was given to him. The 3 children all fell ill. Gu Jiao finally understood what it meant to be in a terrible fix. "It's so itchy." Little Jing Kong cried again. Gu Jiao walked into the room. "Don't scratch. It will leave a scar." Little Jing Kong was mad. "But I can't stand it." Gu Jiao had to apply some cooling ointment to stop the itch. Gu Chongqing had not passed by the Imperial College for a long time. Since he knew the identities of Gu Jiao and Gu Yan, he deliberately avoided this place and would rather take a long detour. But today, for some reason, he had come here at the behest of gods and devils. The sound of the horse's hooves was very soft and did not alarm anyone. He told himself that he was just passing by, just like any other time. He pulled the reins tightly and walked to the door expressionlessly. Suddenly, he heard a low cough. His expression changed slightly, and he subconsciously pulled the reins tighter. The horse did not go fast. He pulled the reins gently and stopped. The cough was hurried and painful. He frowned. He hesitated for a moment and finally got off the horse. He came to the door and was about to knock, but he felt that it was not appropriate. How could a grudge of more than 10 years be written off after 1 or 2 encounters? They were supposed to be strangers who were most familiar with each other. He turned to leave, but the door creaked open. Little Jing Kong opened the door. Little Jing Kong was much better today. It was just that his body was very itchy. Jiao Jiao did not allow him to scratch, so he planned to escape and scratch. In the end, he was caught by his big brother. Little Jing Kong guiltily put his hands behind his back. He was wearing a tiger head hat. Gu Chongqing did not notice his little bald head for the time being. Gu Chongqing looked at him suspiciously. "Where are you going?" Little Jing Kong rolled his eyes. "Come out for some fresh air?" Gu Chongqing's gaze fell on the acne on his face. "You have acne, but you can still come out for some fresh air? Does your sister know?" Little Jing Kong pointed at his fingers. Gu Chongqing had no doubt that if he left, the little guy would immediately run out. "Forget it. I have to hand you over to her. Not because she is my sister, but because I have to do my duty." Gu Chongqing held little Jing Kong's hand and led him into the courtyard. Gu Jiaojiao was cooking in the kitchen. "He wants to run out." Gu Chongqing carried little Jing Kong into the kitchen. Little Jing Kong, who had been complaining about others all year round, was finally being reported by someone. Indeed, he had to pay for what he did. Little Jing Kong lowered his little head guiltily. Gu Jiaojiao glanced at little Jing Kong, then looked at Gu Chongqing. She looked very calm. "Thank you." She did not say anything else. None of the three people in the house spoke. Little Jing Kong felt guilty, but he did not know why the two adults were acting like this. "Who's coughing?" Gu Chongqing heard the sound of coughing again. "It's Gu Yan." Gu Jiaojiao said, "He also has acne." Acne was not a minor illness, not to mention that Gu Yan also had a heart condition. Gu Chongqing frowned and opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he felt that he was in no position to do so. "Have you had acne before?" Gu Jiaojiao asked. "Yes," Gu Chongqing said. Gu Jiaojiao looked at little Jing Kong. "Jing Kong, take your big brother to see Brother Yan." "That's great, I don't have to face the wind anymore." Little Jing Kong grabbed Gu Chongqing's hand and took him to Gu Yan's house. Gu Yan did not drink his medicine properly. He spat it out after taking a sip, and it spilled all over his body. Xiao Lulang had never taken care of such a big brother before. To be honest, he was a little inexperienced. Moreover, Gu Yan was not as sturdy as little Jing Kong. He could do whatever he wanted, but Xiao Lulang was worried that he would make Gu Yan disappear if he was not careful. "Give him to me," Gu Chongqing, who was at the door, suddenly said. Xiao Lulang turned around and looked at Gu Chongqing vigilantly. When he saw little Jing Kong holding his hand, the vigilance in his eyes disappeared. Little Jing Kong said, "Jiao Jiao asked me to bring Big Brother here." After hearing little Jing Kong's words, Xiao Lulang did not hesitate anymore. He stood up and walked out of the house with little Jing Kong. Gu Chongqing turned around and looked at Xiao Lulang. He had never seen Xiao Lulang before, but he felt that he looked familiar. In addition, the vigilance he showed just now was not something a simple scholar would have. This sister. What kind of man did she marry? No, she was not his sister. Digression. Is today's Big Brother worth a monthly ticket? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114495097. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikaga mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 156. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Chongqing's face turned cold. He picked up the bowl of medicine and gently fed Gu Yan the medicine. Gu Chongqing was the eldest brother. He had 2 younger brothers. Although he wasn't much older than them, His mother had passed away early and his stepmother had married him. His father only had eyes for his stepmother and her children. Some things couldn't be given by a servant, so he was experienced in taking care of his two younger brothers. Of course, Gu Yan was different from Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin. He was too weak and had to be treated carefully, like a newborn kitten. In a daze, Gu Yan tasted something bitter. He pushed the spoon out with his tongue in disgust. He sprinkled a few drops of medicine on the back of Gu Chongqing's hand. Gu Chongqing wasn't angry. He sat down by the bed and helped Gu Yan up. He took a pillow and placed it behind his back. He scooped another spoonful of medicine and fed it to Gu Yan. Gu Yan turned his face away and tilted his head on the pillow. He didn't drink it. Gu Chongqing was very experienced in dealing with this kind of little thing. There were candied fruits on the table. He took one and fed it to Gu Yan's mouth. Gu Yan licked it. It was sweet. He opened his mouth to eat it, but Gu Chongqing reached out with the spoon and fed him the medicine. Gu Yan, who was caught off guard and fed a mouthful of medicine, widened his eyes. He was confused. When Gu Qinglin was young, Gu Chongqing also fed him medicine like this. He also had the same expression. However, to be honest, Gu Qinglin wasn't as cute as Gu Yan. Gu Yan had a high fever. His cheeks were red, and there was a tuft of hair on the top of his head. Gu Chongqing couldn't help but think of the silly roe deer he saw when he went hunting. In the future, he probably wouldn't be able to face a prey like the silly roe deer. Gu Yan was a little dazed from the fever. When he saw Gu Chongqing, he didn't react for a while and thought that he was dreaming. Then in a daze he was fed the medicine by Gu Chongqing. Gu Chongqing rewarded him with a candied fruit. He didn't eat it but held it in his hand. Gu Chongqing was puzzled. Why aren't you eating? Gu Yan felt wronged and said, if I wake up and the candied plums are still there, I'll know it's not a dream. He coughed so hard that his throat was hoarse. When he said those words, it was obvious that he had been wronged even without looking at his eyes. Was it because she hadn't come to see him recently? Gu Chongqing was speechless for a long time. You don't know anything yet. If one day you find out that I'm the big brother who neglected you, hated you, and allowed you to be bullied by others when you were young, you won't say that anymore. You wouldn't want to see me either. You wouldn't wait for me either. Gu Chongqing looked at Gu Yan again. Gu Yan had already fallen asleep on the pillow. He pulled the blanket over him and was about to leave. But as soon as he moved, he found that Gu Yan's hand was tightly tugging on his sleeve. Gu Chongqing stared at that hand for a long time. He sighed helplessly and sat back on the stool. That night, Gu Yan had a high fever. He had a heart condition and couldn't take any fever medicine. Gu Jiao put an ice pack on his forehead and took 2 blankets outside to freeze. When the blankets were frozen into ice blankets, she brought them into the room to wrap Gu Yan. Gu Yan didn't obediently wrap himself in the ice blanket. Gu Chongqing carried him and the blankets into his arms. This temperature was just right for Gu Yan. For a normal person, it was no different from hugging a large block of ice. Gu Chongqing was so cold that his lips turned white. At daybreak, Gu Yan's high fever finally went down and didn't return. Gu Chongqing dragged his numb body back to the Fu. Gu Yan was the most dangerous of the 3 children. If he was fine, then everyone else was fine. Yao Shi had come once and found out that the 3 children were sick. She was very worried, but she never had a pimple before. Gu Jiao didn't allow her to enter the room. Today Gu Jiao tidied up and decided to go to the Fu to tell Yao Shi that she was safe. Today's weather was good. There was no wind and the sun was very bright. It was very warm as it fell on her body. The servants in the Fu pretty much knew her identity and didn't dare stop her. She openly walked through the front door. Yao Shi's courtyard was really remote. She had to pass through the second door, walk through the waterside garden, and go around half the Fu. When Gu Jiao arrived at the waterside garden, she heard the melodious sound of a guqin coming from inside. It sounded very similar to the song that had disturbed her for half the afternoon at the medical center. But it was slightly smoother, and the sound of the guqin was purer. Elder sister Jinyu, you play really well. In a pavilion with rolling curtains, a young girl in pink looked at Gu Jinyu and praised him sincerely. Gu Jinyu stroked the strings and gently looked at the young girl. When you learn, you can also play very well. The young girl sighed. But how can I learn? Gu Jinyu smiled warmly. When you get into a girls' school, you'll be able to learn. The teachers at the girls' school are the best in the entire Zhao country. They're much better than the tutors you hire at home. The young girl hugged Gu Jinyu's arm and affectionately said, "Then older cousin has to help me." Just now, she had called her elder sister Jinyu, but now she had changed. Gu Jinyu patted her hand. "Don't worry. As long as you are willing to learn, I will definitely teach you well." Gu Jiao had no intention of eavesdropping on their conversation. It was too quiet here, and they didn't lower their voices at all. Gu Jiao recognized the young girl. She was called Ling Shuixian, old Madame Ling's grandniece. She was younger than her and Gu Yan by a month. She had come back to the Fu to stay for a long time. First, she wanted to be filial to old Madame Gu. Second, she wanted to ask Gu Jinyu for advice, hoping that she could help her pass the girls' school entrance exam after the new year. Old Madame Gu doted on this grandniece very much and had the idea of matchmaking her with Gu Changqing, so she agreed to let her stay in the Fu. As for whether she could enter a girls' school, it was not within old Madame Gu's range of worries. But Gu Jinyu tutored her seriously, which was giving old Madame Gu face. Old Madame Gu was very pleased and liked Gu Jinyu even more. Who is that? Gu Jiao had no intention of befriending Ling Shuixian, but she could not stop Ling Shuixian from noticing Gu Jiao at a glance. There was no other way. Even if Gu Jiao did not rely on her face, her clear aura was too eye-catching. Gu Jinyu had someone raise the curtain and looked at Gu Jiao saying, "That is my older sister." "Your older sister?" Ling Shuixian frowned. "Which older sister? How come I don't recognize her?" Gu Jinyu smiled bitterly. "Yener's twin sister." "Oh, her." Ling Shuixian suddenly realized. As the young miss of Marquis Ding and Fu, she had naturally heard of such important gossip. She had long been curious about what that older cousin who grew up in the countryside was like. Seeing her today, she was not disappointed. Too unruly. She doesn't even wear a veil when going out. She doesn't mind embarrassing the Marquis Fu by showing her face in public. Daughters of aristocratic families like them were very particular. For example, if she came to her uncle's manor and sat in the pavilion, she would have someone lower the curtain. This was the only way to not damage the girl's reputation. Gu Jinyu smiled. "Younger cousin, don't say it like that. Older sister suffered a lot in the countryside. Showing her face in public is also forced by life." Ling Shuixian suddenly asked, "Did she really feed pigs?" "Ah." Gu Jinyu was stunned. Ling Shuixian said in disdain, "How dirty." Ling Shuixian did not dislike Gu Jiao. She just looked down on Gu Jiao. She had always looked down on Yao Shi. Yao Shi's child had been raised in the countryside for over 10 years. Who knew what kind of idiot had been raised? And that face, heavens, what a large birthmark. So ugly. Ling Shuixian mocked. "I heard that she used to be an idiot? Is she still an idiot now?" Gu Jinyu smiled. "Older sister's idiocy has already been cured. Younger cousin, don't say such things in the future. Let's go greet older sister." Ling Shuixian said in disdain, "I'm not going." "If you want to go, you go." Gu Jinyu definitely had to go. With so many servants watching, she could not be rude to her older sister. She walked out of the pavilion and came in front of Gu Jiao. She affectionately called her older sister, then introduced. "That's younger cousin Shuixian. Older sister, do you want to come over and sit with us?" "No need." Gu Jiao refused. Gu Jinyu was not surprised at all, but still smiled and urged her to stay. "Sitting for a while is fine." "I'm not going." Gu Jiao still refused. Gu Jinyu lowered her eyes and lowered her voice. "Then older sister, go ahead. Jinyu won't disturb older sister." Gu Jiao walked away. After taking a few steps, she seemed to have thought of something and turned back to look at Gu Jinyu. "I'm going to see madam. Do you want to come with me?" This was the first time Gu Jiao had taken the initiative to invite Gu Jinyu. Gu Jinyu was stunned. The madam she was talking about must be her mother. Was that how she addressed her mother? Also, why did she suddenly invite her to come along? It was rare for her to take the initiative. Logic told Gu Jinyu that this was a great opportunity to repair their relationship. If her mother saw her together with her older sister, she would definitely be very happy. But this meant that she would have to abandon Ling Shuixian. Ling Shuixian was old Madame Gu's favorite. The three older brothers in the manor all doted on her. If she was on good terms with her, then old Madame Gu and her brothers would also see her in a different light. In the end, Gu Jinyu chose between Yao Shi and Ling Shuixian. Whether or not her mother coaxed her, she would still dote on her. Her brothers, on the other hand, needed her to constantly work hard. I'm sorry, older sister. I just promised younger cousin Shuixian that I would tutor her. When I'm done, I'll go find you and mother, she said with a sincere expression. Gu Jiao did not say anything and turned to leave. Gu Jinyu returned to the pavilion. Ling Shuixian asked, "What did you talk about with her for so long?" Gu Jinyu gently said, "She told me to go to mother's place. I was thinking that I would go after I tutor you." Ling Shuixian was very satisfied that Gu Jinyu had chosen her. Coincidentally, at this moment, old Madame Gu's trusted nanny came over with a food box. She bowed to the two of them. "Miss Gu, this is the medicine that you instructed the servants to brew for the heir. Do you think, should I deliver it for you, or do you want to deliver it personally?" Gu Chongqing was sick. He had always been in good health. However, for some reason he fell sick 3 days ago. Old Madame Gu immediately informed her maternal family to let Ling Shuixian stay in the manor. She said that it was to fulfill her filial piety, but in reality, she was looking for an opportunity to curry favor with Gu Chongqing. This medicine was not brewed under Miss Ling's instructions. It was prepared by old Madame Gu. The nanny's words were meant to remind Ling Shuixian to quickly take the medicine and take care of the heir. Ling Shuixian liked eldest cousin very much. How could she not understand old Madame Gu's arrangements? "Give it to me. I'll deliver it myself." She took the food box. After some thought, she said to Gu Jinyu, "Do you want to come with me to visit eldest brother?" Gu Jinyu's eyes lit up. Eldest brother had been sick for a few days. She had wanted to visit him for a long time, but she could not enter eldest brother's courtyard. Indeed, she had been right to reject Gu Jiao. The opportunity to please eldest brother had come so quickly. The two of them went to Gu Chongqing's courtyard. Unfortunately, Gu Chongqing had gone to the back of the mountain to practice his swordplay. When the old duke was still in the manor, he had never allowed him to slack off just because he was sick. He was an unlucky child who had to practice the horse stance and practice his swordplay even when he had a high fever. Ling Shuixian decided to wait for him in the courtyard. After waiting for a long time and not seeing Gu Chongqing return, Ling Shuixian gradually could not sit still. She began to wander around the courtyard. She was the cousin of the manor. Old Madam and the 3 young masters doted on her. The servants did not dare to say anything to her. They only reminded her not to go to the heir's study. But he might as well not have reminded her. Ling Shuixian just had to go. She had just entered when a loud bang came from the study. Gu Jinyu's expression changed. She quickly went to the study. "Cousin, are you okay?" In the courtyard, Yao Shi saw her daughter. She pulled her daughter's hand and sat down on the Kong bed in the warm room. "You've gotten thinner," she said with heartache. Taking care of 3 sick people, she did not eat or sleep well. Gu Jiao had indeed gotten thinner. "Are they okay?" Yao Shi asked. "They're fine," Gu Jiao replied. The 3 sick people were all alive and kicking, but they were still contagious. So Gu Jiao still had them stay at home. Yao Shi relaxed. "It's all thanks to you. Otherwise, with Yan Er's body, he would not have been able to survive this illness." Gu Yan's body was so weak that even a small cold could kill him, not to mention a pimple. Yao Shi understood that in a place that she could not see, her daughter had put in countless efforts to allow her son to have a body that was 10 times healthier than before. This time, her daughter must have put in a lot of effort to make her son recover so quickly. Gu Jiao wanted to say something but stopped. As the mother and daughter were talking, a young servant girl suddenly rushed in. "Madam, eldest young miss, it's not good. Something happened to second young miss." Digression. Readers who did not win the prize could go to Sina Weibo. Xiaoxiang Bookstore official Weibo, Fangfang, and repost the Weibo of the lucky draw to win Dior lipstick, antique jewelry, and little clear sky accessories. Good luck to everyone. _***. Book title: Marrying the Unparalleled Wastrel Prince, Divine Doctor Consort as the Trash Prince of Nanzhao. Su Mo was sent to East Ming as a hostage for many years. The Emperor of East Ming was very kind. Not only did he give Su Mo the title of prince, but he also arranged a marriage for him. After picking and choosing, it was decided that Guo Gongfu's legitimate daughter would be of noble birth. However, it was not the Mu family's eldest young miss who grew up in the capital. Instead, it was the Mu family's second young miss who had just been found in the countryside. Everyone said, "The village girl and the trash, a match made in heaven." Su Mo remembered that there was some history. The first time they met, the village girl fell from the sky and fell on him. On the night of the wedding, they negotiated amicably and happily became salted fish together. But gradually, things started to go awry. Su Mo, "We agreed to be salted fish together, but you carried me to become a godly doctor. Mu Yuanqiu. How many aliases do you have? Show them all." Female lead true godly doctor versus male lead fake trash. Love before marriage. Clean body and mind. No misunderstanding. Causing trouble is serious, being funny is also serious. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114464023. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.